The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from the Stafford Motor Speedway, LSR TV with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our coverage of the 2018 Cars eSport Tour, powered by the Championship Esports Association, as we get set for the first of 12 weeks of racing action on 2018. We are happy that you're with us tonight, where it all gets kicked off with a late model stock feature coming up next to you on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. And as we were all last season, and as we hope to be for the rest of this 2018 campaign on Wednesday nights, we are happy that you are with us topside at the LSR TV booth. Myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Cisco Scaramuso with the headsets and the switcher in front of him, and Kelly Doll as well up calling the action all for you. And Cisco, happy to have the Cars eSport Tour back with us. Third installment of this eSports Championship, directly affiliated with the Cars Tour and organized by the Championship Esports Association, and it's the second time LSR TV is going to be the home of all the action all season long, and it gets underway tonight with the late model stocks.
Yeah, not only that, Evan, also going to be having us some limited late model action. Those cars very similar to the late model stocks, just with a couple extra pounds. I guess they had a heavy dinner, so they're going to be heading out on track. That's going to be towards the middle of our race here, but kicking us off tonight's going to be an LCQ with the LMSCs, your Monte Carlo SSs, just like you would find on the iRacing simulation. Getting ready to kick those off, and some LCQ action. Got to get into the show here, Evan, and that's on the docket, the first race here tonight.
And a majority of the field has already been determined, but 4 drivers going to be able to punch their ticket into tonight's late model stock main event, with the top 4 finish obviously here in this LCQ race. And Kelly, Stafford Motor Speedway, the side of this one, a half a mile in length. We're going to go to a list of names of short tracks over the course of the season that everybody is going to be familiar with. We do just taking a look at the schedule, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about that over the course of the year. But we very rarely, I think only once, go to the same racetrack twice. We will hit Lanier at 2 points in May and later on in the season in August. But if you're a fan of Stafford, you got to get your money's worth tonight. And without the super late models on track, the late model stocks again taking center stage.
Yeah, it's going to be all about the late model stocks here tonight. And as you said, if you like Stafford, tonight is your night, because it is going to be a long race. 170 laps is going to be our main event. However, that is going to be broken up into different segments. We're doing a really special thing that it's going to be kind of mirroring what the Cars Tour themselves are going to be doing with their little segments, with a 40, then 55, 25, and 30 lap segments that we're going to split all this 170 laps up into. So it's going to be hard to maybe keep track of at first, but it is definitely going to be quite the show for the main event.
And some other things as well to keep in mind as we get later on into tonight is, those yellow flag laps in that main event will not count towards the overall total. Drivers are also going to have only 4 fresh tires on a pit road available, 2 for the left, 2 for the right. You don't have to put them on at the same time, but they are allotted to each side of the race car. That is all you'll be able to add over the course of those 170 laps. Again, that's later on tonight, though. If you want to get into that main event, you're going to have to go through this LCQ, and just a little bit over 10 drivers getting set to go racing a 35-lap sprint. That is fair to say that this LCQ, Cisco, in its entirety, is still longer than the final segment of the race later on tonight, so this could be a good preview of things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. In this race, that race in particular, mirroring what we did just this past weekend over at Tri-County Motor Speedway out in North Carolina. And of course, Tri-County Motor Speedway not on iRacing. This is the closest we're going to get, though, at Stafford. So definitely looking forward to that. And we'll talk strategy with those tires coming up, because there's about a billion different ways you can try and work that into your strategy here. Tony Stevens and I had about a 20-minute discussion on it just on the way home on Saturday. So plenty of strategy there. But Evan, as we get set, we got to head to the starting grid because we've got an LCQ to run.
And it makes your life a lot easier if you start up front. We go trackside and take a look at your LSR TV starting grid. Pole position in this would going to go to the 03 of Matt Shadowski. So he'll bring us to the green flag tonight, accompanied by the number 9. That's Randy Yoakum outside of the front row, starting in second position. Back on row number 2. Third spot goes to the 87 of Matthew Murphy. Scott Austin will start in the number 4 spot. That is the transfer cutoff for the top 4 positions in this race. Just on the outside, looking in and a good place to challenge. Right in the middle of the pack, P5 is Nathan Hurlburt.
Yeah, and then starting 6th is going to be Todd Novosad. Starting 7th is going to be Cam Davidson. Chris Johnson going to start 8th. And 9th going to go to Jeremy Watkins. Rounding out your top 10, it's Billy Tungate.
Rounding out this 13-car field, we have the number 15 of Jack Ritchie starting in 11th. 12th will go to the 41 of Sean Cross. And rounding out the 13-car fields, that 55 of Travis Powell.
Look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid. We talk about this Stafford Motor Speedway, a racetrack that comes in right at a half a mile in distance. Expect quick times in the 35 laps around this half-mile oval that'll bring us through this LCQ. Will not last very long, so you're going to have to be up on the wheel right out of the get-go as the lights go out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. Pace car will head down it in this time. And the field is going to be in the hands of the 03 entry of Matt Shadowski. As always, we're happy that you're spending a Wednesday night with us at LSR TV and iRacing Live as we go Cars eSport Tour Racing for the first time on the 2018 racing campaign. It starts right here, right now, with 4 tickets into tonight's main event on the line in the Stafford Motor Speedway Special. Shadowski on the inside, going to take the American Ethanol green flag, and we are racing from Stafford.
Yeah, down to turn number 1 we go, and on the inside, the 03 of Matt Shadowski going to be able to get that lead away, and it's going to be a battle for second between the number 9 and the 87. That's Matthew Murphy on the inside, Randy Yoakum on the outside. Yoakum going to clear and continue on side by side as that's Scott Austin on the top side as we come to complete lap number 1.
And Austin's in a tough spot. He was battling for 3rd. That's not a big deal, but Kelly now as the 87 Murphy gets around him. It's a fight for 4th. That is for the transfer spot with Nathan Hurlburt on the inside of the racetrack. I noted that inside positioning on row 3 set him up pretty good, and he might this time clear him. Yes, sir. Hurlburt takes over the number 4 spot with 2 laps down.
And now that number 5 is in even more trouble as we got that 92 of Cam Davidson. He's now up on the inside and getting a great launch off of turn 2. And that inside line is showing right off the bat now in this race that it is going to be the most dominant line. And I don't think this race is going to be long enough for that outside line to really wear in. So these guys are going to be trying to get as low as possible. And I'm seeing them even go down onto pretty much the apron going through some of these corners, trying to just get as close as they can and minimize that distance and get the best run off the corners that they possibly can.
Racetrack feels wide open here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. You see that yellow line all the way down on the inside. That's technically not the bottom of the racetrack because you can see that lighter asphalt color. That's the apron where it flattens off. So you'll notice drivers, even if they're a car length up off of the yellow line, they are essentially right down there on the flat of the racetrack. They might use that a little bit to help those cars turn, but they are not running up a lane. That is the bottom of the banking here at Stafford. And we talk about the banking, just not a whole lot of that in general, Cisco, at this racetrack.
No, there isn't. And down to the inside, you can see these guys using that apron, trying to hook the car. I guess if this was initial D, you'd be trying to hook the car in the water gutter on the inside, but it doesn't quite work like that. But kind of similar thought. Get the car on the inside. There's just a hint of banking there up on the actual racing surface that these guys are trying to kind of use to their advantage. You can see them once again at that apron side, trying to get speed down there.
Well, single filing out early on. Race leader is still getting lap time, sub 20 seconds. For Shadowski the last time, it was the 19.632. And this time around, he is going to add a lot to his gap. Picks up a 10th on Randy Yoakum, who still sits second. Again, the key is to keep your eye on the top 4. And Cam Davidson is trying to get himself right there. He's up 2 spots for the start of the race in P5, having just recently got around Scott Austin.
Yeah, but the problem is there is such a huge gap between him and Nathan Hurlburt, who's holding on to that last transfer spot. And it looks like Hurlburt himself is going to be trying to make another move on the 87, get himself into 3rd place, maybe just have a little bit of a buffer zone so he's not riding right on that bubble, but he's not wanting to be held up by the 87 for too much longer, because if that 92 gets into his rear view mirror, that's going to be a bit of trouble for him. But Davidson's got a long ways to go to get up to that transfer spot. He's down 8/10 now on Hurlburt.
That's the biggest thing. He doesn't have to worry about any cars between he and the number 4 transfer spot, but it is just the distance in its own. And any other time you try to catch up to somebody, you can maybe hope that a battle will ensue in front. It'll slow those cars down. In theory, there's no reason Shadowski, Yoka, Murphy, and Hurlburt, 1, 2, 3, 4, should be fighting with each other, because at this point they are in, and that one extra spot in the LCQ is not worth possibly dropping out of the main event. Now, sometimes things don't always go as according to plan, but with 10 down and 25 laps to go, we are seeing the top 4 cars be the best on track.
Yeah, and kind of have broken away from the rest of the field, Evan. I mean, Davidson, yes, he's trying to gain a little bit of ground, but he just can't seem to get the run he needs. Kind of almost a bubble in the way to where he just can't get up to the top 4. And as for Nathan, Hurlburt has just done a fantastic job in that 4th position to keep that gap at the same interval that it's been so far most of this race. So doing what he needs to do is that driver of the 28.
And Hurlburt again picked up that spot right off of the get-go of this race. Everybody else in front of him runs exactly where they started. Obviously, the big loser through all of that was Scott Austin, who ended up falling to P6. He's not all that far back at Cam Davidson, though. I'm curious, Kelly, if there's going to be any hesitation out of that 5 cam to put a pressure on the 92 machine at the fact that, well, if you obviously fight, you're going to help the guys out in front of you who are single file. So I wonder if Scott Austin is just trying to ride in line for the moment, hoping that Davidson can get the job done, or if he just can't quite get to him, because the top 4 are pretty close together, all 1.5 seconds apart from each other. Then there's that big now 1 second gap that you were talking about from 4th to 5th. But then when you get back here to 5th, it's another big group of cars. So those transfer positions right now looking definitely a lot better than the second group of cars who are still quick, but they're just getting a little bit too far outside of that window now with 20 to go.
I think he will try to make the pass if he gets up to him. We're almost halfway through this race already. There is not a lot of time, so he can't just sit there and wait for Cam Davidson to try to make a move before trying to go after that group himself. I think if he does get onto that, get a good run on that 92 car, Scott Austin's going to try to make a move to the inside and try to see if he can have any luck chasing down Hurlburt. But at the moment, they are still dropping back from these drivers, as now that gap is opened up to 1.2 seconds. So look at that 5 getting right up to the bumper of the 92, and I think Scott Austin's trying to look for a way around.
Trying to get creative if he wants. He can force himself to the inside. We saw a little bit ago, I believe it was the 90 car, Jeremy Watkins, who's just behind those two. He actually had all 4 tires of that car down on the flat in turn 4, and you see the 92 Davidson getting a lot more aggressive as the tires start to wear off, and these cars are going to push up the hill again with that complete and utter lack of any sort of vertical or lateral grip here. With the fact that there's so little banking, they try to hook those cars around, and the longer into these runs we're getting, the more and more we're seeing these cars dive down low. Watkins way up the hill, though, in an Ani car as the 14 flashes those to the inside, and Tungate's going to make it a fight for 7th.
Yeah, Billy going to send it to the inside, and up on the top side, Watkins trying to get the run off the corner as they go side by side in front as well. Watkins going to get in the wall a little bit, give up that spot to Tungate. Meanwhile, side by side in front of them as well, Scott Austin down on the inside.
He's going to get him.
Turn him, and he's going to make contact. That'll be a caution flag.
It was a fight for P5, and it is going to be about 3-4 cars involved in this one as the yellow comes out. 20 laps in this 35-lap LCQ, and we get a second look at a minute on the LSR TV replay, but you were watching it live. That 5 car really opened up the inside, had the positioning into the corner, but got really tight, tried to diamond it off of the corner by going real low like we saw the 92 do, and I think it just loosened him up, Kelly. He slides up the hill that little bit, and with the 92 pinching him like he was, there was no room for that kind of mistake, and both the 90 car, Jeremy Watkins, and the 14 Billy Tungate, who were just fighting behind them, also get a piece of that damage.
Yeah, I think that was just a product of hard racing. Neither one of those drivers wanted to give up an inch because they knew how short this race was and just how close they were to that bubble of being into the main event here tonight. So neither one of them wanted to give up. Each one was wanting to take as much track as they could, but unfortunately the 5 did get tight, as he said, and just lost the car, ended up getting into the 92, and that's going to cause some heavy damage. I think the 92 has pulled it down to the pits, and Scott Austin is being charged an EOL penalty for causing that caution.
And something just coming down from the going down from the tower there, Evan, is Kyle Barnes, race director, announcing that if we need to, we can green-white checkered this thing, which, you know, it's going to bunch up the field here, and it's going to make these guys a little bit more desperate, Evan. So green-white checkered on the table if we have to.
That means that you cannot simply look at lap number 35 as refuge. Of course, if you get to the white flag, going to have an opportunity to close this thing out. But as you know, inside of the iRacing service, the dreaded point of no return, as we like to refer to it as, inside of the final 4 laps of a race, the yellow essentially ends it, no time to restart. So if we have to, we'll do a little bit of overtime and do a 2-lap shootout at the end of the race. But getting set for a restart here, first one since we took the green flag. Light still on top of the pace car for the time being. It is going to be Shadowski, Yoka, Murphy, and Hurlburt. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are your transfer spots. They were completely unaffected by what happened behind them because every single car Kelly had involved in an accident were already outside of a transfer spot when it happened.
Yeah, it's going to bunch up the field, though, and going to give someone that we weren't really talking about a shot at this. Billy Tungate now, I think he might have been able to sneak through all of that without too much damage. He's got a little bit of denting to the front, it seems, and hopefully that won't affect him all that much. But now he's got a chance to go for that transfer spot. He started this race in 10th. He's currently riding 5th. And when we get back to green, he's going to be right behind Nathan Hurlburt. And he's actually going to get that inside line as a double file here. So he's going to have really the best shot that he possibly could be given at this moment to get himself into the main event.
Same starting spot that Nathan Hurlburt had at the start of this race. He used it to get to the inside of Scott Austin. He has not looked back, but Hurlburt is going to be on the outside of road 2. We will see if Tungate makes this one interesting. The pace car heads down to pit road. 10 laps to go, but the LCQ from Stafford Motor Speedway. Shadowski going to restart this race at turn number 4 on the inside of the racetrack. Green flag flies for back and away. Not a good job for the cars on row 3 in the top 4 lead to 1 and 2.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same theme pan out once again here, Evan. The top 4 able to get away as contact. The 87 and the 9 going to go at it. They'll be able to hold on to it. 3 wide to turn 3 we go. Down to the inside goes Tungate. He's going to, looks like it actually is going to work out. No, it won't. Wreck behind. The 15 got a little bit spun, but they'll hold on to it as well. And all sorts of calamity here. Your top 5 look like they've all but broken away. Actually, the leader, Manchinowski's gone, and then after that, it's just a whole gaggle of cars.
But it was friendly fire. The 9 car came down on the 87 machine. That was, again, for position P2, but those are both transfer spots. They are very lucky. Neither of them went around, and through all of that madness, Murphy does go up to 2nd. Yoakum does fall to 3rd, but it is still the same top 4, and I thought that might have been a saving grace for Billy Tungate, Kelly, because we talked about the better positioning on the restart. He just did not get going, and then he got right back up to the group when they all got together, but in the blink of an eye, he's already a 2nd behind again.
Yeah, it seems like that damage to the front end of his car is affecting him and holding him back because he had a fantastic shot. He was 3 wide with a number of with the other drivers for that transfer spot and just couldn't get any speed out of that race car. So I think the fenders might be rubbing with the tires, and he's just not getting the speed as he's just dropping like a rock behind the top 4. And now he may be even under fire now from Travis Powell, who's got a bit of a run. And actually, Travis Powell overcooks it into the corner. That's going to give Scott Austin a chance to maybe try to come back here.
Never lose hope. Again, you saw that the fact that, Murphy, Yoakum have damage. In fact, they're going to fight now for 3rd position. Nathan Hurlburt going to go to the inside. I was saying on that entire first run, there's no need to fight. They do have a 2-second advantage over 5th place on the back, so a little bit of a lesser risk here. If something were to happen, they could just simply back out of it. I don't think lose much, but Hurlburt wants to get back up in front of the 9 of Yoakum, and the 9's not going to let him do it without a fight. I think the inside, those got the 28 looking pretty good now as they were inside of 5 to go.
Yeah, no kidding, Evan. The 28 going to be able to make that pass and clear Yoakum to the outside and make sure he does with a little bit of a chop there up towards Randy Yoakum's area. But Yoakum going to fall back to 4th. The good news for him is he's good where he's sitting right now. And as for the calamity behind him, you got a bunch of cars. That's the 74 Chris Johnson down there on the inside. Also got the 55 of Powell and as well the 15 of Richie all back there. Is Tungate actually going to make contact with the 5 of Scott Austin? But that's to the inside here, Evan. No caution flag. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Caution is going to come from the tower as your race leaders took 2 to go. And we were talking about the possibility of a green-white checker. Well, we're going to have a couple of more laps to sort this one out.
It's going to be close, but these guys are going to have another shot at it, and that's just kind of unfortunate racing from the 5 of Scott Austin. He just threw that car on the inside of Billy Tungate. Tungate just left the door open, but unfortunately Tungate tried to come back down on the racetrack and just slammed doors once again, with Scott Austin taking both of them for a spin to the inside. And sounds like Race Control currently explaining the rules of this green-white checkered, and the lap counter may hit 35, but these guys are going to go again.
That's why we're hiding the ticker, Kelly. We could throw it out the window at this point because, I mean, we're going past race distance here, bud.
Yeah, once the pace car gets out of the way, that is when we're going to restart this race. It is literally overtime because we can't add laps, so we are past the allotted distance in this race. We're going to complete 35 laps, but again, this one is going to go to an overtime finish to decide things. So if you're a Travis Powell, P5, a Chris Johnson, P6, I don't think over the course of 35 laps, Kelly, these drivers have cars that compete with those top 4. But when it comes to a 2-lap shootout, it's a completely different set of rules.
Turn 1 is going to be crazy. That's really the only way that they explain it, because everyone's going to be trying to make any sort of move they can stick here, especially watch that 55 of Travis Powell. He's going to have that inside line. If he can get basically some position on that 9 of Randy Yoakum, he may have a shot to take that last transfer spot.
See what happens here as they come side by side into turn number 4, looking for 2 laps to go in a late model stock LCQ. Let's go overtime racing.
Green flag out, and great jump by the 03 there of Shanowski. They're going to go 3 wide for second there for a moment. One car way up the track, the 74. It doesn't matter. He's going to fall back. He's out of the running for that transfer position. Now the 55 has worked his way up into this battle, and it's all sorts of bumping around as they come to take the white flag.
Powell's in the spot that it needs as we take 1 lap to go here from Stafford. Shadowski in the 03 still out in front of the field. He'll be followed by Hurlburt, Murphy, and Powell now side by side for the transfer spot with Randy Yoakum on the inside of the racetrack. This is it. Side by side they go. The 55 tries to look low for the crossover. He's not going to get there, and Shadowski will hang on the final 2 laps of this race. The green-white checker. It'll be Hurlburt, Murphy, and then at the end, at the line, the 9 car came back, and Randy Yoakum slides right back into that final transfer spot in 4th.
Yeah, I don't think it was Shanowski that was the one that we had to worry about hanging on. Shanowski was dominating this race. It was Randy Yoakum who lost that last transfer spot on the restart, just got a horrible jump on the start, but was able to work the line on Travis Powell on the last corner. Travis Powell just couldn't keep that car down, left the door open. That 9 car snuck in and just was able to move himself into position to take the last transfer spot. So Randy Yoakum will sneak his way into the main event.
And through all of that, as silly as it may seem, Cisco, nothing changed from what we got that yellow flag with 2 to go to after that green-white checker. But you can see Travis Powell into 55 definitely tried to make the most of it and was leading with less than a half of a mile left to go in this race. And Randy Yoakum, again, I think was just a little bit too strong, would have mattered the most and got the job done. But an impressive run, though, by everybody in this one to definitely make it close at the end, make it interesting as we get our top 4, the final 4 drivers, plus 1 provisional, I believe, as well, for based on points from last season, is going to be joining tonight's main event field later on.
Yeah, absolutely, and that'll come on later tonight, but coming up next year is going to be some limited late model action. Keep in mind, Evan, that this past weekend, this was the Chaos Race. We had 2 massive wrecks at Tri-County in this division, but this is going to be your limited late model series, which, true to how limited late models worked that we had this weekend, these are basically the same Monte Carlo SSs that you just saw, only with about 250 pounds added on, but they're going to be going for 75 laps coming up next, right here on LSR TV.
And welcome back live to the Stafford Motor Speedway. LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2018 Cars eSport Tour is brought to you by the Championship Esports Association. We're happy that you're with us with week number 1 of 2018 competition. Just wrapped up with the LCQ, and so plenty more racing to come. 170 laps of stage racing to come later on tonight as the late model stocks officially get 2018 underway. But before we get to that point, a little bit of sideshow and bonus action, if you will. We got extra racing earlier on at the overtime finish at the LCQ, and we've got a little bit more bonus racing coming up, Cisco, as the limited late models take to the racetrack.
And I had to double check with Kyle here to get the full story of what we're dealing with, because obviously if you go to iRacing, you go to cars, you go, wait a minute, there is no limited late model in the sim. Well, there is, because Kyle has a tendency, I think, Evan, you said the best, to Frankenstein some of these cars, and that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So these limited late models on the outset aren't going to look a whole lot different from the late model stocks we just saw ran. However, on the technical side, they have about 250 extra pounds thrown in the back. And Kelly, they have a little bit higher of a gear ratio that's going to slow the cars down and kind of give it a little bit more of that regular late model or limited late model feel that you see kind of on the East Coast.
Yeah, that gear is going to limit their top speed, but it is going to give them a bit more acceleration out of the corners. But those cars are going to be banging off the limiter as they come down the front and back straightaway going into turns 1 and 3. So expect to hear these cars absolutely screaming as they go around the racetrack.
Just don't look at the rev counter, Evan. You don't want to know.
If you have the speakers turned up, I'm sure you'll hear them running on it all the way through this one. Obviously, the dynamic we talked about going into the LCQ is it's a quick dash, 35 laps. You got to stay in the top 4. Obviously, very different in this one with 75 laps on the board. This is going to be the longest, of course, caution flag depending. This is, though, the longest set distance of racing that we are going to see all night long. 75 laps total distance in this limited late model main event.
Yeah, and what this means is essentially these guys going to have to go in for the long haul. They're probably not going to come down and take tires because these cautions really aren't that long, Kelly. So I think for these guys, the strategy is going to be conserve until about 10, 15 laps to go, and I'd say go bonsai at it, but you're the driver, not me. What's your strategy coming into tonight?
I mean, I don't know why you're asking me. I drive yes, I do drive in circles like these guys, but I usually do it more on the dirt nowadays. So, but I think a lot of these guys will be conserving, as you said, and we saw how hard these guys went in the LCQ just a few minutes ago when the lap counter ticked down to almost nothing. And I would expect to see that once again. They're going to try to just hold on to whatever position they can, get themselves into a good track position, and then when we get close to maybe about 10 to 15 laps to go, then they're going to go hard, and we'll see a lot of guys just trying to see if they can throw it up the inside in turns 1 and 3.
As you like to call it, Kelly, hashtag send it.
Racetrack that lends itself to that. We saw a lot of people getting aggressive. Even people that were at a transfer spot were beating and banging. The only place that matters in this limited late model main event is P1. So let's go trackside and find out who will be the first to collect the checkered flag tonight from Stafford Motor Speedway. Pole position in this one going to go to the number 30 car. Will Dravicki will bring us to the green flag tonight, and he will be accompanied on the front row by the number 16 Paul Henley. Back in row 2 going to be Magnum Tate starting in 3rd. Derek Paulson will roll off from 4th with Todd Garrett rounding out your top 5.
And you got Reed Rundell in the 43, going to start 6th. 7th going to go to the 13 is Scott Austin, who just made his way into, or was racing in the LCQ rather just a little bit a while ago. Billy Tungate in the 14, also one of the LCQ drivers, going to start 8th and 9th to Todd Novosad and Jeremy Watkins in your top 10.
Chris Johnson in the 74 car will be rolling off in 11th. 12th will be the 41 of Sean Cross, and rounding out again in the 13 car field will be the 96 of Wally Wilson.
The one consistency is we do have about the same amount of cars, so we are able to somewhat predict how they are going to race it around one another, and we will see if, of course, things change over the course of this race. How aggressive are you going to be early? And when we get to lap 35, that's when we were calling it quits last time. Maybe that'll be about the point that drivers decide to turn up the wicker, so we're going to be just about halfway through this 75 lap main event. The lights on top of the pace car are out, though, and we get set to get our first official full race in for 2018, and we will see if pole remains to be key. Matt Shadowski won the LCQ for the top spot. Will Dravicki, therefore, should have a very good opportunity to do it here tonight in that number 30 machine out in front of the field. The pace cars soften in. Gonna wait until the exit of the restart box as they watch for the American Ethanol green flag to fly. We are underway for lap 1 of 75.
Great run by Dravicki down into turn number 1, but going to be challenged by the 16. They'll be side by side as they head out of the corner and into turn number 2. The teammates, Henley and Dravicki, head into turn number 3 now, and hey, it's working out for them right now because it looks like they could clear the 5 of Magnum Tate and 09 Motorsports. Your top 2 cars into the wall in the back. Hey guys, there's a little bit heavier weight in these cars. You got to be careful with them.
They missed it that time. First time through the corner is fair as we work now on lap number 2. Top 4 cars single file down. In fact, it's going to go all the way through the top 5. The first side by side is for 6th and 7th. That's Scott Austin on the inside. And number 13 car, he'll get the spot for Derek Paulson, who dropped down, I believe, to the number 7 spot. He will. Austin going to jump up to 6th. And side by side again in front of them. Todd Garrett and Magnum Tate going at it for the final step on the podium.
And Derek Paulson is continuing to drop back, and he's actually going to get tagged there going by the 14 going into turn 3. And then Derek Paulson already just having a terrible race as he was with that driver that nailed the turn 4 wall in the first lap, and he's got some heavy damage to that right front, and that's slowing down that race car heavily as he's already dropped all the way back to 8th position and nearly got spun out there going into turn 3. So Derek Paulson definitely has an uphill battle ahead of him, Evan.
And of course he does, as we noted, have a little bit more time to be able to not work his way through the field, but anytime you're starting in 8th position or so, you know that you're going to have your work cut out for you. He's already +1 so far, but I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt you is not your ability to pass race cars, it's just the time you lose in doing so. Only 5 laps complete a 75, and he's already talking about a gap that's over 3.5 seconds, and that, I think, is going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah, it is, and Dravicki opening up a gap as well is just going to make this harder for these guys because they're going to have to track him down. That's going to use tires, Evan. Then they're going to have to worry about passing Dravicki with already used up tires to where Dravicki can just kind of conserve at this point. So it's going to be tough, especially for Todd Garrett, when you also consider the fact that, oh yeah, right behind Dravicki, that's his teammate in Paul Henley. So the deck is definitely stacked against old Todd Garrett right now.
Yes, he continues to try to, weather the storm per se, but did a good job of getting up to third early. We will see if he's able to keep that momentum up again. If you can get 2-3 spots off of the green flag in this race, I think that you could allow yourself to breathe a little bit, Kelly. Just get a couple of spots here and don't obviously force the issue right out of the gate. You don't want to wear off those tires, but of course there's a long way to go. If you drive really aggressive now, there's a late race restart, you might not have anything left. If you can get 2 spots on one restart, nothing saying you can't get 2 more on the next one. So just obviously try to keep in touch with the cars in front of you. You can see just how tight to the back bumper of Paul Henley he is in the battle for second. Stay within striking distance, close enough to be able to take advantage of a mistake, but also make sure you've got a race car underneath you if things get fun later on. Again, lap 10 is 75 and it works. Still a marathon left to go.
Yeah, if I was Todd Guerin, I'd try to hold off at the moment and wait for a pass to maybe just kind of present itself in an opportunity. But he's in a great position if it were to come down to a restart. Like, being on that inside line is where you want to be. And at the moment, if he were to put himself on the outside for the next restart, because as you mentioned, Will Dravicki and Paul Henley are teammates, Dravicki will probably get on the radio, tell Henley exactly when he's going to jump, and then Guerin's going to be in trouble for the restart. So Guerin's just got himself in a great position at the moment and shouldn't push his car too hard. As you mentioned, he doesn't have the tires to just last this whole time if he's going to go as hard as possible all the time. But it looks like he's going to try to make another peek to the inside here going into turn 3, and he is going to get up to the door of the 16.
Side by side we go to fight for second. It's going on about a half of a second off of the race lead right now. It's been all Will Dravicki so far, uncontested through 13 laps of action so far. But Todd Guerin not giving a 16 any more room than he has to, despite the fact that the 18's down low. He was cutting up very early on Paul Henley, almost forcing him to give him a little bit more space, and Guerin's going to complete that pass. Moving to P2 now, that's plus 3 spots already. That makes him the bigger mover in the race out of anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Also makes him a very happy Todd Guerin, because that means that's one less car he's going to have to track down and pass to get past our leader, Will Dravicki, who has been batting 1,000 so far, going to come to complete and lead lap number 14. So Dravicki out to an early lead, not having to worry too much about challenges, and looking through the rest of the field, everybody else coming down, even the secondary pack. You see the 4 of Paulson, the 14 at Tungate, the 13 of Austin, the 74 of Johnson. Those 4 all together also kind of feeling a little bit calm here, so not too much battling here going on throughout your mid-pack. It's all Will Dravicki up front.
The 30 car is not going to complain about that, although Todd Guerin appears to be the one that's going to be the agitator tonight. He does not want to heed the advice and sit back and slowly and methodically pick through these 75 laps. He has a fast race car, and he wants to use it. Any other time you see a side-by-side fight, I would expect those 2 cars to lose time to the car in front of them. Todd Guerin has moved into second, passing Henley, and has only gained on Will Dravicki. That gap now back down to 2 car lengths, probably the closest anybody's been to that 30 of Dravicki since Henley was right there only 2 laps into this race.
Yeah, Todd Guerin slowly chipping away at that lead, and every lap that lead has gone down. So Guerin just running that car hard, but as you mentioned, he's got to worry about those tires, and I think he's just trying to push his car as hard as possible, get himself in front of Dravicki, and then make Dravicki be the one that has to maybe try to use worn tires later on in the race and make a late race pass. And Guerin getting right up to the bumper now. We saw this a while back when he was chasing down that 16 car. He would get right up to the bumper in the middle of the corners, and then a few laps later just got that good run off of turn 2 and was able to sneak to the inside. He's going to get almost up to hit the bumper of the 30. So Todd Guerin putting the pressure on Will Dravicki.
And if you're Dravicki in this situation, Cisco, do you just get out of the way and let him go? Obviously, the 30 machine not pushing it as hard. Hasn't had to be fair. When you start up front and you got clean racetrack, I'm not going to say you're going to be complicit, but you don't have as much of a chip on your shoulder or an incentive to get going. But there is still a long way to go in this race, just past quarter distance. And it seems like we've been talking about Todd Guerin in a battle for position nearly every single lap. Do you not want to hold him up? Because obviously any sort of defensive move by the 30 is going to wear on that race car a little bit more. I would almost think just let the 18 go if he wants to drive the wheels off it, drop back into P2, gauge how hard you want to drive that car based off of what he does in front of you, and then maybe get right back into it at the end.
That depends on how hard Will Dravicki's been driving that car, Evan, because if he hasn't been saving anything, if he lets the 18 by, there's nothing that's going to say that he'll be able to get back to him. So if I'm Will Dravicki, it all depends on what kind of race Will Dravicki's been running. Obviously, with him being out front as much as he has, you have to think he's been saving something. But honestly, Evan, I'm not giving up that lead.
30 cars so far has shown no intentions on doing so. The 18's got awfully tight to him a couple of times, but has not let the 18 machine get down low. In fact, that 30, I think Kelly has gone halfway to the apron to shut the door a few times. And I think Guerin also recognizing that, not going right back in there, trying to set himself up, get in a good position to make the move if he then decides to.
Yeah, he's just trying to run a defensive line, making that car as wide as possible. And we've seen that the only place to make a pass here on this racetrack is to the inside. So as long as Dravicki keeps that car down to the bottom of the racetrack throughout the corners, it's going to create a lot of problems for Todd Guerin, and he's not going to be able to really find a way around unless he can somehow get a great launch off of a corner. So Dravicki just has to focus on hitting his marks, and I think he's going to have to now start focusing on that 41 of Sean Cross in front of him as he's starting to catch up to the lap traffic.
You'll see the race leaders catch up, and that's at 41 to Sean Cross, who sees your race leader coming. He'll move up and get out of the way. It might have affected the 18 to Todd Guerin a little bit, but that was just bad timing with him catching him off for the quarter. A nice job by Cross to get out of the way as he becomes the first driver to fall a lap down. Like in all of these Wednesday night races, 40 laps of uncontested green flag action means a competition caution. We're past halfway there now, working lap 27.
Yeah, and also something to note, Evan, is all of these drivers taking part in this race, none of them have ever won a CEA feature race before, one of the big races. So, you know that whole thing about, giving up the lead and letting them fall back, Evan, and saving your stuff? If I had never won one of these things before, yeah, you'd have to spin me out for me to give up that lead right now. And that's what it looks like Dravicki's stance is right now, because he is defending that bottom line to heck or high water, basically.
I want to think as well that competition caution probably plays into his mind as well. If we, get to that point, the restart would be with less than 35 to go, there wouldn't be another one. So it would almost split this race right in half, but being the control car for the restart is a big help to somebody. Obviously, you get the inside positioning. That has appeared so far to be the better lane to be at the Stafford Motor Speedway, but also you might be able to get a little bit of a jump out of the gate and hope, hey, if Todd Guerin's on my outside and somebody in third gets a good jump, they could be busy funny to it themselves. So I would almost think leading at the ensuing restart, if we do, Kelly, get to that competition yellow in 10 laps from now, I think that's going to be a critical step in putting that 30 machine of Will Dravicki in a victory lane for the first time. But look at the 18 almost into the grass trying to get to the inside of him.
Yeah, and it's something I mentioned earlier, that 16 that's going to be starting in third, if we were to have that competition caution right now, is the teammate of Will Dravicki. So Dravicki could call out when he's going to start. Look at the 18. He's going to dive again to the inside. Todd Guerin trying to see if he's going to get a nose there. He will. He's actually going to get up all the way to the door through the middle of the corner, and we're going to go side by side down the back straight.
Inside he goes, side by side for the race lead. First time we've said that basically all night long. The LCQ win went from all the way to the start to the finish, and Will Dravicki will not lead that time. New race leader, Todd Guerin, in 33 laps of contest, has worked himself from 5th to now 1st. Dravicki doesn't want to give it up, though. Knows the inside's key. Flash the nose, and that was a hard drive into the corner by Guerin to make sure he couldn't get down there.
Yeah, and if I'm Will Dravicki, I'm not in quite panic mode yet here, Evan, because we know we have the competition caution at 40, so that's probably going to be the next best shot. So you know what? Todd Guerin's going to build all this lead, and it's going to be for naught because you know that caution's coming. So if I'm Will Dravicki, I'm just thinking here, you know what? I think I'm just going to wait until that comp yellow and then just try and stick it on the restart here.
And that could be a fair case. Drop off a little bit. Obviously, you're going to have an opportunity to cool down those tires when you work under those caution flag conditions. And there's the caution flag for you. 35 laps in. And yellow flag from behind. That's a spinner. Yeah, that's the 96 of Wally Wilson.
We were getting ready for the comp yellow there, Kelly, and that was the 96. Looped it all around. And, well, I guess that planning sort of still works out because it was relatively close to when we thought the caution was going to come.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the competition caution. Wally Wilson just getting that losing control of that car, banging it up just a little bit on the outside wall, but Don't think there's going to be many major problems for anyone else, but this is going to really throw a wrench in some of these guys' plans. I think they were all actually were planning for this for the competition caution coming up in a few laps, but it's really going to put a hamper on Will Dravicki's plans, who was maybe banking on that caution being a few laps away, and I think he was hoping to take that lead back from Todd Guerin within those next few laps.
It hurt his strategy, maybe. We get a yellow either way. It's only a 4-lap difference between when we would have actually gotten that yellow. It actually comes right out at the halfway point, so it'll put us just inside of 40 to go, meaning that we will not have another competition yellow for the rest of this race, and that makes the timing on Todd Guerin's pass, I think, Cisco, that much more critical, because he got it just 2 laps before this comes out, and now that puts him, I think, in that critical position of being the control car for a restart.
And because Wilson was wrecked out of being the lucky dog, he's actually going to get lucky here and get that lap back. So if you're Wally Wilson, you are on top of the world right now, because you get another shot at getting back to the lead lap here and maybe doing something when the yellow goes out. But yeah, Evan, I have to agree, this is going to be very interesting, because I don't think Dravicki got the cooldown time that he wanted. And I don't think Guerin was able to get a fair chance at trying to see how his car was in clean air yet. So I don't know, man. This could be interesting.
Anytime you get a yellow and you get a chance to group everybody back up, obviously is going to be an opportunity for things to get a little bit crazy. So it's going to be Guerin, Dravicki, row 1, Henley Tate on 2, with Reed Rundle, and Billy Turngate, row 3, Scott Austin, Derek Paulson, row 4, Chris Johnson, Jeremy Watkins round out the top 10 on the racetrack. Novosad, Wilson, and then cross the lap down to round out the entire field. Based on what we saw, Kelly, Todd Guerin, best car, I think, in that first run. Is he going to have speed, though, to sustain it throughout? Or Dravicki saved a little bit. Is this the opportunity for him to put the foot down? Is sleeper maybe for Paul Henley, Magnum Tate? Do we think that Guerin's got it secured as the lights go out, or are we going to see a challenge here?
I think we'll have to wait a few laps to really see if Guerin's worn off those tires. He may have just overheated them up a little bit, and maybe just this caution allowing them to cool down will bring that grip back to the 18 car. But I think in maybe 10-15 laps time, we'll see if he really did wear off those tires too much going after Will Dravicki.
Out to find out. Pace car down and in. It was a 35-lap run to the first yellow, and there are 35 laps to go in a limited late model main event tonight from Stafford Motor Speedway. The 18 is off and out, and the 30 car of Dravicki left in the dust. Here comes Henley for second.
Yeah, and just completely gone is Todd Guerin, and yep, Henley's going to grab second. It was a horrible restart for Will Dravicki, who's fallen back to third and is now on the outside getting the freight train treatment. Goodbye Reed Rundle, and could very well be goodbye Scott Austin if Will Dravicki does not address this right now.
Get the job done sooner than later, but the 30 car not going to get in any positions there. He'll lose an additional spot. So Henley to P2, Rundle now to P3, and I think in that 13 machine, yes, he will. Scott Austin the inside for 4th position. So maybe it is just a little bit of fall off. Oh, behind contact, Magnum Tate. What a save in turn 4. Almost got junked by the 14 at Tungate, but somehow we're still green.
There's some rough and tumble racing right now, and this is some true short track racing. It's some couple contact between number of drivers. The 30 of Will Dravicki got a good shot in the rear end on the restart. I think he may have just missed a shift there, because that car just did not launch at all, and now he's in a ton of trouble as he's gone from sitting in second place, dropping all the way back to sitting in 5th at the moment, and he's now finally going to maybe just be able to slip down to that inside line. But if he doesn't get down there soon, that 14 of Billy Tungate might be able to get his nose in
and put himself in a position, but Will Dravicki definitely got used up, and I think it was a good restart by Guerin. Yes, that's key, Cisco, but I agree with Kelly in the fact that I think Will Dravicki really blew that one.
Yeah, no, that was not a good restart, and that's basically taken Dravicki out and thrown away his chances of getting his first feature win here in CEA. And as for Todd Guerin, it's out to the races at this point, but Paul Henley isn't letting him get too far away, but I just haven't seen the speed out of the 16 quite yet to be able to challenge anything, and the 18 just dropped to the inside. What on earth just happened?
The 18 division of Todd Guerin is on pit road at lap number 46. He's going to come down from the race lead.
Black flag.
Black flag. Paul Henley is going to get the top spot in this one, so a penalty to your former now race leader, Todd Guerin.
They're saying he jumped the start here, Kelly, and he's going to roll through pit road. That explains the restart for Dravicki, because Dravicki looked absolutely stunned by him. That would explain why Paul Henley apparently was just going to be able to grab the lead here, because, yeah, I guess Guerin got a little bit too ambitious on the restart.
It may have been a mix of both. I think he did catch him off guard by jumping early, but I think there was a bit of a mistake from Dravicki because everyone else got a decent launch. Dravicki just was way off there. But yeah, Paul Henley just getting handed the race lead after that penalty call, and now the battle is going to be shaping up between Henley and Reed Rundell, who's just slowly sticking along behind him, just 0.4 seconds back.
I think a combination of a little bit of a jump courtesy of Todd Guerin, a bad restart, and all of that together made it really look like a huge jump. Probably didn't do, the Todd Guerin camps are any favors the fact that his car on the outside didn't really get going, but he definitely went a little bit before the green flag came out. I don't think he was maliciously, Cisco, trying to jump in front of it by a second or whatever, although I do think the objective was to guess it, time it correctly. In theory, that green flag's going to come out at the same time, so these drivers definitely try to keep that in mind on the first restart of the race, and I think he just jumped it in the slightest bit, just trying to be perfect on the get-go.
And I know Kyle Barnes, our race director here, that was an extremely tough call to make, and he probably went back and looked at it a couple times. It's not saying he was able to call right away there. Normally what the procedure would be was they'd slow everybody down and get a second shot at it, but just they had to take so much time to review it and they ended up making the call there. So unfortunately for Todd Guerin, what could have been an honest mistake just cost him a shot at what could have been his first feature win here in CEA.
And that opens up the door for Paul Henley for the 16 car. Started this race in second position and really just ran his own race. Was not all that concerned about the big charge that we saw out of Guerin. He took the pass on Dravicki off of the restart and really just ran his own race, and now he finds himself with a half a second advantage, closing in on 20 laps to go over Reed Rundell, who's fallen to second. It is really a two-car race at this point. Everybody else has dropped back nearly 2 seconds. Scott Austin third, Dravicki fourth, and Billy Tungate in fifth. So if anyone's going to bring a challenge to Henley, it's going to have to come from the 43 camp.
And just hearing from race control, a little bit different restart rules to what we do normally in the car store, because you can't just throw the yellow and then kind of bring them all back. It doesn't really work like that. So the option, if you do that, Evan, is you either have to give the spot back, or like we saw what happened with Todd Guerin, you have to go down pit road for a pass through. And apparently Guerin didn't think he jumped it, and as a result, sorry, bud, that's pass through.
And that has him, obviously, by the nature of this short track, all the way back in 12th position. I am surprised, though, that he didn't just completely outright lose his lead lap status. The fact that you have to curve around the inside of the pit lane all the way down in 3 and 4, and then the same thing down at the other end of the racetrack in 1 and 2 to be able to get back out on track. So if there were to be a yellow flag, he could maybe fight for a top 10. He's a little bit too far back, I think, from 10th right now, and Todd Novosad, who's 5.6 seconds off for the race lead in 10th, but Todd Guerin is at 11th, 11 seconds back. So he'd have to make up 5 seconds on his own to get up there. Not impossible, but I think his only hope right now to salvage anything out of this race would be a yellow.
Yeah, it's definitely something he's going to be banking on. And we had the call earlier that there would be a competition caution after 40 laps, and that's only after 40 laps of green flag racing. Now that we've had that the actual caution, that flag that we had, it was past 35 laps in, so there is since there's less than 40 laps to go, we're going all the way to the end. There will be no more competition cautions. He has to hope for someone to get spun out on this racetrack for something to for him to get back onto the tail end of this pack. So it's really just a tough call for Todd Guerin, and he's just going to be really hoping for someone to have a bad night.
Sometimes the racing gods, if you will, are working in your favor so far. Henley has been in a very good position. However, Rundell, again, still in second. Well, we've been talking about some of the other fights on track. Has been knocking on the door. It is one of the closer battles on track, and it is probably going to be for the race lead here. 15 laps to go for Rundell. It is a short track. So nobody is saying that you can't use the bumper. You just have to be close enough to do it right. And I think he's got more than enough time to get that just an extra car length. Get within 1 car length of him, and you can set yourself up to make a nice move on him if you get that close. I think 2 car lengths back is a little bit iffy. It would be quite the drive into the corner. But if you can get within 1 car length, that's definitely striking distance.
Yeah, Evan, the stewards aren't going to let you wreck the guy, but at the very least, like you said, this is a short track, so if you want to move him out of the way, you have all the time in the world. And as long as you don't wreck him or put him in the fence or something like that, heck, you can probably put him in the fence, but as long as you don't crash him, you're probably going to be all right. So if you're Reed Rundell, there's plenty of opportunities here to get what you want, but the question is how.
And he's also going to slowly start to run out of time. Look at the 43 there. It looked like he drove it really hard into the corner. I don't think that's what you want to do. If you are going to go a route that involves at all any sort of sheet metal, get it on sheet metal. You don't want to do it with 13 laps to go in this race as we close in now on 10 to go, because if it comes down to that, if you don't feel like your race car, Kelly, is going to be enough to just get him straight up, and you do have to get a little bit physical, which is completely within the rules and I think what you would expect to see within reason at a short track, you do not want to give that driver an opportunity to get back to you. So I would have suspected Rundell to be setting Paul Henley up a little bit more. Instead, he's taking a couple of hard dives into the corner, getting close to the back of the 16, but it's really been hurting him off of the corner, and now he's back, I think, too far away at about 3-4 car lengths.
I think he might have just got into his own head, really, just pushing that car a little bit too hard, and it's starting to cost him now as he's just running a bit awkwardly in those lines. He's not quite hitting the marks. He's not getting smooth off the corner. He's going fast into the corner. He's having a real quick entry, but it's slowing him so much down through the middle of the corner. He's just not getting the drive off, and that's starting to lose the ground. That's what's causing him to lose ground. Now he's starting to really slow that car back up a bit, starting to get a bit smoother once again, and we can see that gap shrink just a little bit. But he's got to stay focused. He can't let it get into his head that he's in trouble here and just not quite at the bumper. He's got to just stay calm, and maybe he'll have a shot at that 16.
Looking out for a lap car up top. That's the number 96 car of Wally Wilson, who will fall off for the lead lap. So we go down to 11 cars on the lead lap. Through all of that, Todd Guerin was able to get himself back in to a lead lap position, but still shy of creeping back inside of the top 10. This time by 6 laps to go from Stafford. The 43 is made up for some of those mistakes. He's right back within that 2 car length window. If he pulls the trigger, when does he go for it?
Yeah, it's got to be soon here, Evan. You don't want to wait too long, but at the same time, you don't want to let that guy get a chance back at you. So if you're Reed Rundell, this might be the whole strategy. If you can get to Paul Henley, you want to make that pass as late as humanly possible, because you don't want the favor being returned to you here. So time running out, though, for Reed Rundell. The question is, can he do it in time?
Going to come down to the wire for sure. Saw late race yellow at the LCQ. That changed things up. Do we stay green to the end? Because Scott Austin, Will Dravicki, Billy Tungate, and 5 of Magnum Tate are all over each other for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th position into the 9 laps. But obviously, the only thing that matters in this, there's no top 4. Only 1 checkered flag and a line. Going to be 3 laps to go for Paul Henley.
He's got to figure out a way to get up to that 16 car, and there he just drives it in a little too hard into the corner once more, and he's again overdriving his race car and burning off those tires, as well as losing just a little bit of ground. He's 0.2 seconds back, and if he tries to just throw it into a corner, he's not going to be able to make that pass stick. So he's got to get his car just a little bit closer to that back bumper of Paul Henley before he can try to make a move like that. And he is keeping pace. He just can't quite get up close enough to Paul Henley.
We'll see if he ends up coming up just short. White flag in the air the next time by. If we get to that point, this one's going to race out to the end regardless of what happens. The 43 car still there. Does Reed Rundell have anything in the back pocket, or is it going to be Paul Henley for a first career win with the Championship Esports Association? Last lap underway from Stafford Motor Speedway. The 43 comes close, and he's got a big run down the back. Final time to turn 3. Looks to the inside of the racetrack. Henley going to go low to shut the door, and that is going to be all she wrote. Paul Henley, your limited late model winner.
And first time winner for a feature win here in CEA, a ecstatic Paul Henley. We're going to get a chance to talk to him here in a little bit, but huge win for the driver of that number 16 machine. A huge win also for his whole team, 09 Motorsports. Their first win, I think, as a whole team here this season.
Congratulations to that team as well. Excited to be competing with us in the Cars eSport Tour for 2018. And for the first time out, Kelly, week number 1, parking a car in Victory Lane. It's not a very bad way to get the year started, if I do say so myself.
No, it's a good way to boost the confidence going into a season. Getting a win right off the bat really makes you feel good and allows you to just give you that boost and give you a bit of momentum going forward. So I'd expect Paul Henley to just try to ride this bit of wave of momentum and maybe get another couple good results in the next few weeks.
Get a word with him, trackside, in just a moment. But first, let's take a look top to bottom at your LSR TV full race results. Paul Henley takes home the win tonight. First career win for him in the Championship Esports Association. Reed Rundell, even a heck of a fight late, ends up shy in P2 through all of this. Scott Austin comes home in 3rd position. He wins out in that big battle from 3rd through 6th position at the end of this race. And top of Will Jervicki, who did fall to 4th before this race finished. Billy Tungate rounds out your top 5, as well with the Magnum Tate in 6. Jeremy Watkins comes home 7th. 8th is Chris Johnson. Todd Novosad 9th, and Todd Guerin rounds through your top 10. Only one additional car to finish on the lead lap. That is Derek Paulson in 11th. And then Wally Wilson and Sean Cross have both come home 1 lap down in the 12th and 13th positions, respectively. But we go trackside now to get a word with the driver of the number 16 machine, Paul Henley, your race winner tonight in the limited late models for the Stafford Motor Speedway. Paul, congratulations on the win. Just tell us through this one, because you guys started second. You had a fast car, but I don't think at least the first half of the race as fast as Todd Guerin. He blew past you, blew past our pole sitter, Will Jervicki, and looked like he was in a very good position to win this race, but he kind of forced it on that restart, got hit with a penalty, and you guys look like by running your own race allowed this race to come to you, and you're a race winner in the Championship Esports Association. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was definitely the 3rd fastest, I think, out of everybody there. I didn't have anything for Todd or Will, and Todd unfortunately jumped that start, and I think it affected Will on his start. I also got a push from whoever was behind me, so that kind of helped me out, and with my teammates in my ears, they helped me be consistent and held off for the win.
Obviously, looking at a race distance with 75 laps in these cars, knowing that if it were to go green to 40, we would have gotten a competition yellow. We actually had an accident just shy of that, but it essentially split this race in 2. At the halfway point in this race, just looking at what you had in that 16 machine compared to, everybody else around you, the likes of Jervicki, the likes of Garrett and such, what did you assess at that moment, and what was the strategy going into the second half?
Well, knowing that we weren't going to get any fresh tires, taking it easy on the tires was a crucial thing, and I figured it out almost before the caution, and by just doing that, it helped me be consistent with every lap after that, and apparently that was enough to hold off for the win.
Tell us about that battle with the 43 Reed Rundell. He was coming in close on you a couple of times, got within a car length or so, including down in turn 3 for the final time. How much were you using that mirror there coming to the end?
Yeah, the last 10 laps were nerve-wracking. I was like, don't make any mistakes, just hold your line, do what you gotta do. Brandon Wilkinson was coaching me through and helped me know that he was right there, 2 seconds back, and he was getting closer and closer, and I can definitely tell I was pushing a little too hard, but it was, I guess, just enough.
think everything definitely works out when you park the car in victory lane, and you're a winner for the first time at a championship eSports Association as well. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels fantastic. I've been wanting this for so long, and it's a lot of work. There's a lot of fantastic drivers in here, and it's really challenging, and I'm very thankful to have this opportunity.
We're also thankful that you were able to give us some time and chat with us post-race. Paul, we'll let you get out of here. Before we do the sponsors and the shout-outs, the folks at the team, who do you want to say hi to and thanks for this?
First and foremost, I want to thank my fiance, Erin Barr, for letting me do this. She's been my support since day one, so I really appreciate that. Also want to thank Roger Vicky for bringing me to the CEA League, and thank my 09 Motorsports team. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Thank my sponsors, Turn 5 Live, Croak and Toads, and we just got a new sponsor today, World by Storm. I'm glad to have them on board. And everybody else that supports us, I want to thank you guys for hosting us. You guys are awesome. Thanks for Kyle Barnes for letting us do this and all the hard work that's put into this.
Everybody enjoys a good plot twist, and it was a fun one tonight. Again, Paul, thank you for joining us. Congratulations, though, on the win. Hopefully for you and the team, this is the first of many to come, and we'll see you for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much.
Race winner tonight, the limited late model winner as well. First for him, as we noted on his career, Paul Henley opens it up tonight, winning in our 75-lap feature. But the main event is still to come. It is late model stock opening night for the 2018 Cars eSport Tour, and we go racing for 170 laps. That one is next, right here on LSR TV in iRacing Live. We'll be back to Stafford Motor Speedway for the big ticket event when we come back. Back live from Stafford Springs, Connecticut, as we get set for tonight's main event, opening night for the 2018 Championship Esports Association's Cars eSport Tour. And your home for sim racing and iRacing live. 2 down, 1 to go. We saw the LCQ earlier on this evening, as we saw us qualify in the final 4 drivers into our main event this evening. Matt Shadowski took the win at that one, and Paul Henley just took home his first career win in our limited late model main event. But that brings us to the main event of the evening. Late model stocks go points racing for the first time this year, Cisco, but it starts right here and right now with 170 laps on the board, and stage racing with a lot of twists between now and the checkered flag.
Yeah, it does. If you're the crew chief, you're going to get out your notebook for this. So this is how we're going to run tonight. Your first segment's going to be 40 laps. Your second segment's going to be 55 laps. Your third segment's going to be 25 laps. And your last segment is going to be 30 laps. So all sorts of goofiness in there. Now, you get 4 tires. Or in this case here on iRacing, you get 1 jack for each side of the car. You can only jack up the right side once. You can only jack up the left side once. And you can only do that, you can only take tires during the break, so you can't come down pit road ahead of time and then come out in front of everybody. And the reason you might want to do that is these are breaks that we'll be seeing in the caution flags, not pit stops. And what that means is you'll come down, you'll have a set allotted amount of time that you can come down, get tires changed, damage repaired, whatever you need to do. And after those breaks, the field will be regridded. The guys who have taken no tires during this break will be gridded in front of those who took 1 jack, who will be regridded in front of those who took 2. And, you know, if a bunch of people took 2 jacks, then it's going to be based on the position you came down pit road. So all the pressure on your pit stops, that you don't have to worry about any of that. That's going to be easy. What's going to be hard here is how are you going to split up your tires? Are you going to save them all for the last kind of break here and put 4 fresh tires on that and start further back in your field? Or are you going to split them up? Are you going to do your left sides in your second to last break and your right sides on the last break? Or are you going to try and take 4 here on the second to last break and then hope that you have enough tires for 30 laps? It was an interesting concept when we saw it over the weekend, Evan. Josh Berry ended up taking the strategy of taking 4 at the end. The problem for him was he wasn't able to get through the traffic fast enough, so it backfired on him. So there's lots of different ways this could go. It's very interesting.
And exactly to that point as well, Kelly, I was going to say, when you talk about obviously coming down for service, the more times you go up on the jack, the further back you're going to be for the restart. The counterproductive thing would be, obviously, I've got fresh tires, I could move through the field, but so far tonight we've seen really drivers struggle to do so. Now, the obvious plot twist there is we haven't seen drivers be able to take tires to this point, so that is going to be a huge factor, but I'm thinking I want to go right at that middle point. I'm not sure if I'm sticking with 2 tires for that final stop, because 40 and 55 laps together, that's 95 laps in the first 2 stages compared to only 55 laps in the second 2. Those second 2, I think track position is going to be really big. I'm not on the racetrack for a reason, because I am not very good with a super late model or a late model stock, but I just think looking at the numbers, I would like to make my service halfway home, because it's actually past the halfway point.
And that's what I would be thinking as well. If you take 4 tires in the last stage, yes, you're going to be fast, you're going to have speed, but there's going to be a huge field of cars in front of you depending on how many other drivers decide to come down pit road along with you. So it's going to be extremely difficult for all these guys that take the 4 tires at the end to be able to move up through the field. So as you said, I would take tires in the midway point as well and use those last 2 stages just to filter my way through the field. But that may put you just on a bit of a back foot to some of those guys that do take 4 tires at the end and maybe a little bit further up in the field depending on where they took their stop as well.
Tell you what, Evan, they're not giving you money back here if you don't use the tires, so you definitely want to use them.
Absolutely, and something else, of course, Yellow's incidents over the course of the race are going to throw a wrench into the strategy. But all of that has gone on. They've got a number they want to hit. We will see how it plays out in practice. Cars are on track for the first points race of 2018. Let's go trackside and take a look at your LSR TV starting grid. Pole position to go to the 45 of Justin Trombley. He'll bring us to the green flag tonight, and he is accompanied on the front row by by Matt Cucker, who comes into tonight as the defending late model stock champion from Season 2 back from 2017. Devin Morgan and Christian Peterson, they're going to be on road 2, with Morgan 3rd and Peterson 4th. Peterson, the 2-time defending super late model champ, and behind them a winner from just 10 minutes ago, Paul Henley, starts 5th.
They got Brandon Wilkinson going to start 6th, 7th going to go to Michael Held, 8th going to go to Ryan Doucette, 9th place starter going to be Joe Burkett. Jeff Ward rounds out your top 10.
Douglas Miller will be rolling off in 11th. Tommy Ryan just on the outsides in 12th. 13th will be the 02 at Dwight Beverly. Will Dravicki, will be rolling off in 14th, and Derek Paulson starting in 15th.
Continuing on through 16th is going to be Brandon Stokes, James Milwaukler 17th, David Killow will start at 18th, Reed Rundell is back at 19th, and Dustin Turnage rounds out your top 20.
21st, you got John Lyday, Chad Bass, going to be 22nd, 23rd to Matt Chinoski, 24th to Nathan Hurlburt, Matthew Murphy, 25th, Randy Oakham, 26th, 27th, Travis Powell, Jeremy Watkins round out your 28th car field.
Looked out the bottom of your LSR TV starting grid, 170 laps, 85 miles to the checkered flag. We have got a lot between now and that run to the finish. 40 laps up for segment number 1. In this late model stock season opener with the Cars eSport Tour powered with the Championship Esports Association. Pace cars soften in, and it's Justin Trombley's field to bring to the American Ethanol Green Flag 2018 is underway with the Cars eSport Tour.
Down at turn number 1, everybody going to give each other plenty of space here. It's a good first corner for these guys. Down to turn number 3, and Trombley going to be able to try and hold on the bottom side, but Cucker trying to use the outside to his advantage. They roll off the corner here. Survey says the 69 leads the first lap of 2018.
And it did on the outside of the racetrack. Impressive by Matt Cucker. The outside has not been a place to be so far this evening. You'll notice very different conditions right now at Stafford Motor Speedway than what we've had all night long. The clouds and such have gone away. The sun is out, and it is beating on that racetrack. 76 degrees Fahrenheit trackside, the warmest we have seen it all night long. I would think that would not help out Matt Cucker, but this is the defending series champion, and he's doing a good job still neck and neck for the race lead, keeping that car up top.
Cucker is the one person that, even no matter how difficult you may think it is to pass on the outside, he will find a way to make it happen. Matt Cucker is a very strong driver on the outside. Unfortunately, he's just not strong enough, and he's starting to lose ground. The 45 of Justin Trombley, he is going to get clear, and now Cucker just trying to battle for the hold on to that second position as Devin Morgan's going to hold on to that inside line, and if Cucker can't find a way down, he's going to be freight trained. But luckily his teammate, the 23 of Christian Peterson, he's going to back off slightly and allow Cucker to slide in.
Cucker does find the spot in line. He does cost himself a position. Probably had an opportunity, Cisco, to let the 45 go, just tuck in line in second. But we all know that that is not Matt Cucker's MO, and he wanted the battle for the race lead and got that bonus point for leading lap number 1. I think that more than anything, though, was sending a message to Trombley that it is not going to be a stroll in the park for him tonight.
No, and Trombley able to get the lead back now for now at least, so I guess we'll just have to find out how that's going to roll for him. But 45 leading, at least at the moment. I think Matt Cucker at this point just waiting for that opportunity later in the race to make that move. The MO, as you say, that is we're so used to seeing out of that driver in the 69. And CP, I wouldn't be surprised if he's thinking the same thing. Those two teammates lurking for 3rd and 4th right now, but Devin Morgan rolling up to that second place position saying, hey, I want to lead a lap as long as we're giving away lead laps here, why not? And he wants to join the party. The 12 cars right there, not a lot of separation. Good news is all 28 cars who started this race scored on the lead lap. Everybody was able to get off and get going for the first race of the season here. Top 4 cars still within a second of each other. Haven't said much about Christian Peterson. He is the only person besides Joe Burchett who runs inside of the top 10. That is exactly where they started, of course, except for Trombley, who is out in front of the field. But Peterson not quite on pace with the top 3 yet, and is a little bit in front of the battle that Michael Held and Brandon Wilkinson were having a couple of laps ago that saw the 33 move into P5.
And it seems like everyone's just kind of in a holding position at the moment. We're all single file all the way through the field, it seems. I don't think there's any double file battles going on at the moment. And so it seems everyone's kind of found their position for this first stage. And it looks like everyone's just going to try to conserve these tires as we have the 2 longest stages of the night to start off the night.
And it's obviously going to make things more exciting as we get down to the end of the night, because those shorter stints, the 25-lap segment and the 30-lap segment, will be the third and fourth segments of the night. And that's when everybody's going to be amped up and ready to go at a race start. But I like the fact that these longer runs, Cisco, are earlier in the night, because it gives drivers who, obviously in a field this size, on a racetrack this small, are going to have difficulty completing a significant amount of passes. You don't get a qualifying spot that you want. You call in through the LCQ and you're way in the back. You've got a lot of work cut out for you. These long runs early give you a chance to work through the field a good little bit.
There's no comp yellows going to be coming out for this because of the stage cautions tonight. So for these guys, it's the number specified on the tin here. Of course, unless they start piling it up in one of the turns, then we'll have a caution. But up until then, it's going to be green flag run, no competition yellows to get in the way. And these guys know the numbers they have to hit here. And I mean, we went through plenty of strategy here at the beginning, but we didn't talk about if you wanted to try and take 4 tires at the first stop or doing something wacky like that. There's so much of this that we still is up in the air that you could try, Evan. If you take 4 tires early at the first thing, that could mean you're going to start at the front. You know, conceivably, you're going to start at the front of the field for the rest of the night. So there's all sorts of different strategies to come with those stages, but the strategy right now, I would think, is if you're one of these top guys, is drive fast.
And I can promise you, when the drivers and their crew chiefs first saw 40, 55, 25, and 30 lap segments, they got a little bit wide-eyed. It is a very unique format. Obviously, this series following exactly what you'll see as best as we can, talking about Stafford affiliated for a racetrack not on the iRacing service, but with these stages and the segments and the rules and all that, with the cars going up on the jacks and the available tires, as close to you can get to what you'd see if you headed out to the short track on the weekend to catch the actual Cars Tour. And there is no, I think, clear-cut strategy, Kelly, on how to win this. We'll have an opinion. The drivers and their crew chiefs may have varying opinions, but there is no one, I think, that stands out as the golden call to make, which means that this race is completely wide open. And even if we don't see weird yellows that throw off the strategy, those 3 stage breaks throughout the night, I think, are going to be more than enough to shake things up.
Oh, they'll definitely be more than enough to shake things up, because each one of those breaks will give us the opportunity to group the field up. And we saw just how wild that first start was, as Matt Cucker just went and took the battle to Justin Tremblay, and we'll probably see that even more intense later on, especially getting into those last 2 starts, or those last 2 stages there, as they'll be just trying to give as much, or take as much as they can. They won't be giving anything back, as we'll probably have them just door to door, probably 3-4 deep through the field. And I'm sure those drivers that are going to be having the fresher tires later on are going to be struggling to get past the battles they'll have up front.
If this is going to be a theme that goes on throughout the night, again, we are still early in this race, but we've already got 20 laps complete, so that means we're closing in on getting halfway through now, this time by our first 40-lap segment of the evening. Top 3 cars still within 0.6 of a second of each other. Christian Peterson had noted it wasn't quite with them early. He slid back a little bit. He's almost 2 seconds back in 4th with Held and Wilkinson, and now the 56 having some problems. The 77, Ryan Doucette on the inside is going to take a spot away from him. That 56 and Wilkinson got pushed up high when the 77 went low. He was way out of the groove, and it was a very easy move for the 77 Doucette, who moves up to P6, race high position for him.
And Doucette is one of these names, Evan, that is around a lot on the iRacing service, but it's not a name we've seen particularly a whole lot here on LSR TV. He's run occasionally, whether it's been through Sarah CEA or some of these other series, but now aligned with the 09 Motorsports guys. You got to know the 77 contributing a lot of resources to that whole team. One of these new guys here on the team that basically is popped up basically as a resistance factor, or a resistance group to Vincier Racing, who's been so dominant in this series. So Doucette, one of the many names helping things out behind the scenes for 09, as well as on the track.
He's doing a good job right now, keeping them, hoping that they have their debut continue to be so very good after we saw the win just a little bit ago in the limited late model race with Paul Henley, and now Doucette is up in the conversation here, and it goes back to the point I made in that limited late model race, Kelly, but I think it's absolutely amplified here. We're talking about a race that is twice as long in total distance. It's going to have a couple of restarts, and that is you do not have to hit the grand slam in the first inning to win the ball game. You've got to get through 9 innings, hypothetically speaking. You can get 2 spots here, get a yellow, a couple more spots here or there off for the restart, and slowly build yourself up to the front, as opposed to just completely bonsaiing it out of the gate. It might work for you. Hey, if that's your strategy, more power to you. Go put it to them and charge to the front. But I like when I see drivers get a spot here or there, and they're smart about it.
Yeah, some people will see these segments as individual races. They're going to try to get as far as they can in each of these segments and try to get as many positions in each one. They've got to look at the big picture. You can't just break it up into small chunks that much. You can't get too focused on a little segment when you've got to look at the big picture. As we mentioned, there's those pit stops that we're going to have, those little breaks in between the segments where we can take tires, and it's going to change how these drivers are going to line up at the end of these each segment. So they've got to have their own strategy. I'm sure they've discussed it between their teammates all these times, and they'll maybe say, okay, if we're in this position, maybe we'll take tires at this time. If we're in this position, we'll take tires at another time. So maybe these guys at the back, they might take 2 tires this stop, 2 tires maybe in a later stop. And then when they come down for the last restart, maybe they'll be the ones that haven't had to take tires in that last restart, and they'll be up at the front. And maybe they'll just try to make those cars as wide as possible, and that might be one of these winning strategies.
And strategy is only a part of how you win this race, as we see Ryan Doucette go for another one, side by side for 5th. It's 33 of Michael held on the outside of the racetrack. Not a ton of resistance there. And now, as we work 3/4 of the way through the opening stage, Doucette is up 3 spots. Biggest mover inside of the top 10 as he gets into the top 5 for the first time tonight. Strategy, though, Cisco, can only do you so much. You can set yourself up based on strategy, but there is going to come a point in this race where you've got to put the elbows up, and you are going to have to outrace the cars around you. So it is a combination of the two, but being on the right strategy call can make your life a lot easier in the meantime.
And talk about life not being easy. How about these guys, these leaders heading through all this lap traffic right now? You got the 55 and you got the 90 basically all over the place in front of the leaders. That's the 90 of Jeremy Watkins, and then the 55 of Travis Powell. The Menards entry as well. You can see the 90 of Watkins way up the racetrack, and the 55 gonna head through the infield. And lap traffic starting to be a factor here. Only 30 laps in or so, Evan. So definitely could be a factor in the second stage as well.
One had to have known it was going to be a factor in the 40-lap run. It's definitely then going to be a factor in the 55-lap segment a little bit later on. It shouldn't really be an issue later on tonight in those shorter ones, Kelly, but we've got 28 cars packed in the racetrack that is just a half a mile in length. This is something that you have to come to expect.
Yeah, it's something that was going to eventually happen, and it may happen in those shorter runs later on. But as you mentioned, the big run that we're going to have in the second stage, that's going to be where it's going to be very vital for these guys to cut through the lap traffic. As Matt Cucker has done quite well and been able to get himself around Devin Morgan to take second place back, and Justin Tremblay as well, just cutting through this lap traffic, not giving a lot of time for Cucker to catch up. But now he's going to get stuck up behind the 9 car. I think the 45 was expecting the 9 to go high through the corner, and that'll force that leader, Justin Tremblay, to check up. And now look how close Cucker has got as the 9 again staying on the low side.
Likes that inside of position, and you can't blame him for that. I would definitely think that's the preferred lane to be in. So the 9 machine wants to protect it as much as he can. The inspiration here for Randy Yoakum is he doesn't want to lose his lead lap status. He's only 5 laps away from the stage break, but a 45 punches a hole on the bottom. The 69 of Cucker was getting ready to go topside, and that 9 car will lose his lead lap status. Yoakum falls a lap down. Now he has to hope that the 45 doesn't get somebody else, but a 69 of Cucker, 2 wheels down on the flat, trying to get to the inside. Are we gonna have a battle for the race lead? The 69 gives him a shot now into turn 3.
Hey, it's you got bumpers on the car, Evan. May as well use them. At least that's the strategy for the 69 of Cucker. And took a look to the inside. Probably could have put a fender to him and moved him up the racetrack, though he decided not to. And you see the damage already on those 2 cars. Stage coming to an end here shortly. Is Cucker going to try something to steal this lead away?
Racing to lap number 40 for the first stage break tonight for the Stafford Motor Speedway in the Stafford Special season opener. for the late model stocks of the Cars eSport Tour, and Justin Trombley wants to lead it to that point, but the 69 of Matt Cucker's in a fantastic spot to not let him. Side by side for the penultimate time to 3 and 4, and he is going to clear him. He gets completely by. The 45 of Trombley looks low, trying to peek to the inside, and it is going to be too little too late. Perfect timing, though, for Matt Cucker, who is maybe uncharacteristically quiet sitting back there lurking in second, makes the move just in a nick of time, and he'll come through turn number 4 for the final time, finish lap number 40 in the race lead. The segment number 1 goes into the books. Matt Cucker leading this race.
Yeah, fantastic job by Matt Cucker. Yellow flag gonna fly here, signal the end. The first stage, Matt Cucker, Justin Trombley, Devin Morgan, Christian Peterson, Ryan Doucette. That's your top 5 coming out of this. And pit stop's going to be on the cycle for some, maybe nobody. Let's find out what the strategy call is going to be.
Again, remember, you've only got 4 tires available. That's going to be the key thing to remember, Kelly. You cannot take 2 sets of right sides. You have 2 for the right side of the race car, 2 for the left side. And if you decide to jack up the car now, you're going to have to restart even further back than obviously the ground you'd lose anyways, because the drivers who get jacked up have to go to the back for the restart. Is it worth it now? It's quite a long ways to the end, but 40 laps does a good number on him. Doesn't look like any of your race leaders, though, bite.
And it looks like everyone's going to try to, at least all the race leaders are going to stay out. They don't want to have to deal with that lap traffic or not the lap traffic, but the traffic in the back of the field coming up to our longest segment of the night. They want that cleared air.
Got one. That's Nathan Hurlburt, the 28, coming down. We'll see if the jacks go up on that particular car. Or it could be, there's a lot of right front damage on that car, Evan. That could be what it's for.
Yeah, obviously if you have damage, and if you're at the back of the pack anyways, come down pit road and get it fixed. I don't think anybody is going to see that as an unrealistic expectation. You might lose 4 spots or so. Not going to be the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but the objective there is to get that car fixed so that if you probably almost, I would think, Kelly, don't take the tires either. Just come down to get the damage fixed. That way, when you do decide to make that call later on, you're right there back in the conversation, and you can use maybe these first 2 stage breaks to try to right the wrongs, per se, of the opening bit of this race, but get yourself back in a better position. And I think it helps him out because with nobody wanting to come down pit road now, you're not really, again, giving up that much by coming down and getting that car fixed.
No, he just needed just a few seconds to come down there, take the hammers out, bang out that right front, and just maybe prevent that fender from rubbing on the tire and slowing him down. And I think maybe they'll have a bit more speed as he comes back onto the racetrack, and that may help him for these this longer stint. As you mentioned, he'll still have those tires in pocket. We're just getting the call from the tower. Matthew Murphy is the only driver to take tires. He took 2 tires, and he will be the lucky dog as well.
That's it, and he's obviously way at the back of the pack. The 87 will restart in 24th, so no real need, Cisco, either for race control to have to enforce that penalty and send him into the back, because he's the only one who decided to go for it after the first 40.
It makes it easy, but the thing, if you're Matthew Murphy now, is don't overplay yourself. Make sure you have those tires unchecked for when you come back down pit road, because if you take tires, you're basically just telling the admins, hey, DQ me at this point. So be careful, because we've seen a couple guys do that when we've had these tire rules across MBSS and some of the other series. Be careful you don't beat yourself. Don't make a stupid mistake.
And that's what I would do right now while I'm pacing, Kelly, is make sure that I've got the tires turned off if I'm not planning on coming down and doing it again. And that's where having a crew chief can help. If you trust them, obviously the crew chiefs can make that call in the sim. That can be their responsibility. But every once in a while, a little bit of miscommunication does exactly what Cisco was talking about, and you make a mistake. And here, if you break that tire rule, you're done.
Yeah, we saw someone take tires in the LCQ and ended up being disqualified. However, he was already multiple laps down, so that made no difference at all. But here, you could have yourself having a fantastic night, but just accidentally take tires on the wrong side, and suddenly that's it. Your night is done. There's no penalty. There's no maybe drive-through penalty or one lap penalty. It's just straight. You're parked. That's it.
That's definitely not what you want to have happen to you. Race, I believe, to lap 103. That's going to be 55 laps from now. Again, laps do not count under yellow. 40 down and 55 to go until the next one. Green flag in the air for segment number 2. And it is Cucker and Trombley side by side once again. Cucker one on the outside for the restart.
Yeah, and it's going to work again. The 69 is so tough on the outside. Seems to have found the groove up there to make it work. And up there as well, the teammate, Christian Peterson. Both those drivers looking to go through. Is Cucker going to lead at the line? And the 45 going to try and chop block Peterson here and take away that line. Is he going to be successful? Yes, he will be able to hold him off. So they're battling behind him. And that's Doucette working his way up to 4th.
Doucette's having a good run up 3 spots right on the bumper. Christian Peterson there, having just gotten around Devin Morgan, so he'll go +4 overall on the night. He's halfway home, working his way up front, going back to the conversation I was talking about, how just pick off a couple of spots here or there, it'll add up as the night goes on. But for Matt Cucker, so impressive up top, because obviously, Kelly, so far we've seen bottom is where you want to be in a side-by-side fight. When Matt Cucker started this race in second, he led the opening lap. Trombley did eventually get the best of him, but I think it's a gutsy move, and I think it shows the confidence the 69 car has by going up top again, knowing that if it doesn't work out, he could easily get boxed out there, get freight trained down low. Confident enough in the speed of the Global Com Chevrolet that he wanted to stick with it anyways, that he got to the race lead, not getting away from Trombley, Peterson, or Doucette. We are stacked up inside of the top 4, but he is leading this race into the second segment.
But I think we may see that top line start to come in later on in these maybe later segments, maybe even later on in this segment here as some tires wear down and the track heats up. We're also seeing a lot of rubber being laid down on that inside line, and maybe that's going to help that outside line out just a little bit. However, the one thing that's going to continue to help that inside line is being able to use that the transition of the banking onto the flat there on that apron that helps that car just rotate a little bit. That's been helping these guys just get that better run on the inside line as they dip the tires down there. So it's definitely an interesting thing to think about, but I think the top side may come in, but a driver that probably would be running that top side, as mentioned, is Matt Cucker, but he has no need to run the top side right now. He's going to just hold on to that inside line. So Justin Tremblay might be the next guy that's going to maybe take that gamble later on in the run.
If Trombley does decide to shake things up a little bit, I mean, even when Cucker was catching up to him, Cisco, it wasn't like at other times where we've seen Matt Cucker go and race for wins here on Wednesday nights where it was a dominant charge. He definitely got there, set him up, and doesn't hesitate. But, I mean, Trombley's still showing great pace. Your top 4 still within half a second of each other. I think Peterson really improving from how fast that 23 looked in the opening stint of this race as well. Again, he dropped the back nearly 2 seconds by the time he got to the stage break. Nothing can really predict where he'll be when we do get to the end of this 55-lap run, but at least out of the gate as well, he's looking a lot more sporty.
Yeah, he is, and I'm starting to wonder if these guys may be thinking about maybe using up these tires now, Evan, with this being the longest stage here. Maybe they're going to try and take 4 now and none later or something like that, because this is way more racy than we saw the top 5 at in the first stage. So definitely interesting, the shift in driving dynamics that we're seeing right now.
It goes exactly back to what me and Kelly were talking earlier. I would like the call to just go 4 tires at the halfway point and be done with it, but there is, again, no clear-cut best strategy to be on. Race still very much wide out in the open, but there are a couple of names that I think we can start to throw into the hat. Cucker, Trombley, Peterson, Doucette as some of the better cars on night. How about Jeff Ward? Haven't talked all that much about him. It's another one of the turn 5 entries for Jeff Ward there. He's up 4 positions as well into the number 6 spot and has been very quiet in his march into the conversation.
Yeah, he's been working his way through the field, and I think that's definitely a good sign for later on tonight when he does have to take tires and move himself back in the field. If he's shown already that he can make passes and work his way up, he's already got that experience and knows how that's going to work on this racetrack. So I think that may put him as an kind of an unlikely candidate early on to really make his way up and just kind of be a bit of a surprise entry as we go into these last 2 stages.
And again, working a total distance of 170 laps at green flag conditions tonight. That does mean that this race is still far from halfway, but a caution flag is going to come out for the first time for an incident, and the car slow at the front is the 0-1 at Dustin Turnage.
Yeah, and we'll get a second look at this on the LSR TV replay and figure out what happened to the 0-1. There's some substantial substantial damage to that Vincier Racing car, and let's wind back the camera and find out what happened. It was the 61s back there with him of James Milbachler, and the 31 as well of Douglas Miller, and let's find out what happened. And no one came a little bit up, 61 came a little bit down, and goodbye front end.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the 01, I mean, that car, as you said, completely destroyed. He kind of jackknifed on top of the 87 machine coming through, and I think, relatively speaking, we're fortunate that the wreck wasn't any bigger than that. It could have easily been 5-6 cars, Kelly, although I think that car down there on pit road now took about the brunt of an impact to 6 cars.
Yeah, he took a hard shot to the wall, and I think that's going to finish his night here, and definitely not the way that he wanted to start his season off, but it's something that he's just going to have to shake off and put behind him as they move on to maybe he'll just have to turn his attentions towards Myrtle Beach next week and focus on getting the car set up for then. But for tonight, his race is done.
A tough break for him. Caution flag going to give an opportunity for John Lade to get the lucky dog. The number 22 going to be waved around, and you'll join everybody back up front. And caution to flag lap, Cisco, inside of the stages count for the total, not in between them. So we do lose a little bit of time here, and gives everybody an opportunity to get back and go at it. I want to watch Jeff Ward on this one, though, because I mentioned he was doing a good job getting up to 6. The top 5 were still under a blanket up top. Then there was like an 0.8 of a second gap back to Ward. Let's see if that 7 can flip the switch and join that group in front of him. And if anything, just become the caboose on the faster group as opposed to being the lead train car on one of the slower ones back there a little bit further back of the pack. So we'll see if he can make that switch here, or if he's not buying into the mentality that some of the other drivers appear to have, and that is that this is the run you want to push it on because tires will be coming soon.
Yeah, and I want to be careful because I don't want to cheer on Ward too much considering I'm affiliated with his sponsor, and I don't think that would be good. I think I'd get accused of cheating or having bias towards Jeff Ward, which I assure you I do not.
I think they call that like actions detrimental or something. I think it just kind of covers everything.
Yeah, but Turn 5 Live, PMN's, Steve Ovens, everybody over there. It's really cool, actually, the story with that, Evan, because Steve, a dirt guy in the real-life side of things, and has jumped on not only commentary for us here and there for RSR, but has kind of brought and embraced the side of sim racing as well. So it's cool to see his stuff as well as a lot of PMN logos out here with 09. That's cool for me because it's something I see out of work also here on the sim, which is cool.
It all wraps up into the same thing, talking about how the Cars eSport Tour, again, working closely with the folks over at the Cars Tour, and a lot of cross-promotion stuff as well. So I say the more the merrier, the more eyeballs you can get on short track action on the iRacing service, the better off everybody is going to be. And so far, this has been a very good night of action, but the late model stock main event has been fantastic through 66 laps. Pace car going to go back down and in as we continue to work at a 55-lap long segment number 2. Matt Cucker this time on the inside of the racetrack wants to show that he's a jack of all trades, but it is Trombley to the line.
Yeah, Trombley getting a great launch, but Cucker getting that preferred line, and Trombley's trying to see if he can take the fight to him, just doing exactly what Cucker did on that very first start of the race, and he's still holding on. They're completely even up going into turn 3.
45 up on the outside. Trombley hasn't been up here so far this evening. Cucker had the aggressive charge up there on the first restart of this race, and then we got back racing for the segment start, chose the top. So Trombley in a little bit of unfamiliar territory. He wants to get in P2, but he can't do it. And here's the risk now. If you get pinned up on the outside, here comes Christian Peterson, a very fierce competitor in a fight for second.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're wondering where that massive gap came from behind Tommy Ryan, there was some shenanigans on the restart there around 11th and 12th. Really broke up this field, so probably not going to see a caution based on that, Evan. Everybody's starting to spread themselves out, except, of course, this battle for second.
Not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and it's a 3-car fight now. To 23 of Peterson isn't quite clear, but that's the 77 Ryan Doucette you see into the picture. In that green entry down low, he uses the apron to get there. Peterson gets by Trombley, and the 45 is not doing a bad job again, Kelly, for literally the first time all night. He's been on that outside line, but you can definitely tell it's hindering him a bit, and with the inside, I still think being the place to be, this may not end anytime soon. He's desperately trying to find a spotted line. Doucette clears him, and he will get it. Devin Morgan tried to get on the inside. He had a nose, but a little bit slow, but a turn 2, and the 45 finally stops the bleeding. He drops 3 spots.
Yeah, Morgan tried whatever he could to get underneath the 45. That car went all the way down to the yellow line at the grass there, and that, as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, that is not the racing surface. That is the apron, but the way this track is just so shallowly banked, it is possible to run down on that apron. So we'll see a number of drivers. Oh, a bit of a wiggle from the 12 there, and that's maybe may allow Jeff Ward to get another position, but we'll see these cars multiple times throughout the night drop down onto that apron, just use that little bit of a change in the banking to help the car turn. And we're actually starting to see some rubber being laid down on the apron, especially on the exit of these corners.
And you'll see it on the wider shots, that lower line of the racetrack getting a lot darker as the rubber gets put down. And as obviously we get later into these runs and into this race, the cars are going to push up a little bit more, and the groove will spread out a little bit and will make the outside line much more competitive. And considering how well it has been without that assistance up until this point, we could easily have almost a two-groove racetrack at a Stafford Motor Speedway coming into this race. But for the time being, nobody up front needs it. We are single file inside of the top 10. The first fight for position on track is with James Milbachler and Nathan Hurlburt for 13th and 14th, but that's nearly 6 seconds off of the top spot.
Yeah, this was around where those shenanigans on the restart happened. You see the damage on the 61 of Milbachler to the rear with that front end damage he got from the first caution, but the rear end damage was he got shunted coming to the green flag, and yeah, everything kicked off back there. So looks like everything settled out there for a moment, but some damaged race cars back about 13th and back further. As we head around turns 3 and 4 this time and look back up to where your leaders were, everybody still in this kind of gaggle and a little bit of a single file line, at least for a moment. It was a little bit side by side back around Tommy Ryan, and looks like everything's sorted out as well. Yeah, you see the 02, yeah, that is DJ Beverly. That 02 Patriot Fire bright yellow entry just got around the lap car, I believe. Lap car, if I can work properly. That's Will Dravicki in the 30 and has fallen a very long way, Evan, from running up towards the front as he was at the end of the limited late model race.
Yeah, you can see the damage on the number 30 car. He's 1 lap down in 23rd position as your race leaders continue to work on him. We did say that this run being the longest one of the night, 55 laps, would be the most, I think, affected by lap traffic. The yellow flag, though, essentially means that when we restarted, we're going about the same distance as that first segment. So I don't think it's going to be too chaotic by any means. Obviously, I think what would be more of a factor is accidents that kick cars laps down, and when you have drivers with damage and such, that is when it can be a headache to get around a group of them. But out front looks like relatively clean racetrack for about a straightaway and change, so Matt Cucker is not worried about that. It's he, Peterson, Doucette, 1, 2, 3 still out in front of the field, and they don't really look like they're at each other's throats as much as they were right out of the gate. I think they're happy with where they sit, relatively speaking, at this point in the race as we close in on halfway.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something as you mentioned, the cars that may get damaged and to be a lap down. Those cars will be running just a bit slower than normal, and that does present the opportunity to these leaders getting caught a bit off guard by lap drivers with damage that may have to take different lines or may just be running different speeds into and out of corners because of this damage. So that may present some problems for them as well, but it may also be easier for those cars because the lap cars going a bit slower, they can just pass them a lot faster and just get them out of the way. But at the moment, as you mentioned, Matt Cucker got a very clear and wide racetrack for him to just put some laps down as he's running 1-2 with his teammate of Christian Peterson.
Seen these two drivers do very good things on Wednesday nights, not only in this Cars eSport Tour, of course, the likes of the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series, where they combined for nearly 30 wins over the course of the 2017-18 campaign. But even in this series, this is the 3rd installment of the Cars eSport Tour. Matt Cucker, your late model stock champion from last year. Christian Peterson, a little bit out of his element, if you could even call it that, the 2-time defending super late model division champion. Nobody has ever taken an SLM title in this Cars eSport Tour not named Christian Peterson. And of course, we talk about some of the differences between the late model stocks and the SLMs. Both of these drivers can make a run for a title in either or of those.
Yeah, no kidding. And the big difference between that and between these cars and the SLMs, apart from obviously the car being different, is this is the fixed setup car. You know, these guys don't have the ability to adjust on the cars like they have in the super late model division. So for these guys, everybody's in the same car, and it makes it a little bit tougher in terms of competition wise, because you don't have that car quite the way you want it. But I guess it keeps everybody on the same playing field, so it makes the racing a little bit closer, as Ryan Doucette looking to break up the Vincier Racing duo. And I mean, we haven't seen him in this series before, Evan, and you know what that tells me? That's a guy who's not named Christian Peterson who could actually go out and win this thing.
But I think first week out, it's key for him to make a statement. Kucker, Peterson, they are so very familiar with one another. Of course, all the drivers in this Cars eSport Tour for the 2018 campaign, very familiar with a lot of the names that they have seen for the last 2 seasons. For Ryan Doucette to get a name that may ring a bell, but not necessarily on Wednesday nights at LSR TV, I think that despite the fact, Kelly, I'm sure a lot of the guys in the field are very aware of what the 77 can do on the sim. From behind the wheel of a late model stock, for the first time in this series, it is crucial for him to have a very good first week. Obviously, if you're fighting for a championship, you don't want to have any off weeks. But the first week of the season, I think for a lot of drivers, they used to get reacclimated to their surroundings, to kind of get back into the rhythm of things. The 77 needs to be big tonight.
Yeah, I think he's already knocked on the door of the Vincier Racing team, as he's sitting right on the bumper of these 2 Vincier drivers that are leading the race, and he's kind of showed them, hey, I'm the guy that's going to be up racing with you guys for this entire season. This is how this is going to be, and he's already putting the pressure to him. And he, like you said, he may be the guy that may take it to the Vincier drivers for this race win, and he's definitely got a shot. He's run a very strong race up from 8th already.
One of the bigger movers inside of the top 10. He has gained 5 spots, so has Jeff Ward, who, as we noted off for the restart, moved into the top 5 for the first time tonight. Big battle now for 6th position. Devin Morgan is under attack. Here comes Michael Held in the number 33 machine. He's got friendly fire behind him. The 26 is Joe Burchett, Tommy Rahn as well. 8th and 9th on track. Everybody trying to get on the bottom side of the 12 car. Morgan using a good run up top to keep him honest, but again, you run the risk where if you don't win this battle for one position, you could easily lose 2 or 3.
And Kelly, I see a bunch of cars that were behind the 12. You know what this tells me? This tells me they're all stuck behind them, and we're waiting to try and get past. So I'm wondering if the 12 was maybe a little slower, and these guys finally decided to kick him to the curb.
I think the 12 is also running on worn tires. He slid multiple times throughout those last couple laps on that high side, so he's definitely struggling with some grip at the moment, and running to the outside did not help him at all, as I think he wore off a bit more rubber on those tires, and I think he may be one of our takers on this next race break, as he slides again coming off of turn 4.
Expect to see that a lot more as the night goes on. Again, this is probably, for the guys up front, going to be the oldest tires they run on at any point this evening. The 12 got sideways. That was Morgan. And just after he held them all off, a mistake is going to get held right back into the conversation.
And that, I don't know how he saved that car, but it was an incredible save by the 12. And he's still going to be stuck on the top side right now, and just not able to find a whole lot of relief down on the inside, because every time it looks like he could clear Michael Held, all of a sudden the car just kind of slides out from under him. So yeah, I agree, Evan, those tires are probably just toast right now on that 12.
It's probably the same story for the 33 Held as well. Again, everybody right now pretty much at an even playing field, but I think Devin Morgan has been under attack a lot more. That maybe when you're a little bit more desperate defensive running, you tend to drive a little bit more aggressive. He did it once, and he'll do it again. The 33, again, just can't keep it tied down off of the corner. And that 12 of Devin Morgan will clear him and maintain sole possession of P6, but it is not without effort, courtesy of the 33 camp.
Yeah, that 33 is trying his best to keep that car down on the inside, but again, the grip may just be wearing away from that inside line a little bit, and we may start seeing the outside line going back up to the front. Christian Peterson getting in a bit of trouble with some lap traffic, getting into the side of the 10 car, and that 10 car is absolutely wrecked out on that racetrack. There is a ton of damage on that race car.
We saw damage on some of the other cars involved in accidents, and for Stokes, he'll fall a lap down. That damage has been hurting him since we went back into green flag conditions. It's why he has fallen to 21st spot, and Any glimmer of hope is going to be gone pretty soon once the Ford of Derek Paulson gets lapped by your race leaders, or only about a half a straightaway behind him. He'd fall out of the lucky dog position, and then that would basically, I think, be one of the final nails in the coffin, not to mention, of course, the damage never helped either. We're going to have, though, maybe we talked about the importance of being in front for the restart at the end of the first segment, Cisco. Absolutely true. For the end of the second segment, Matt Cucker made the pass with 1 to go in segment 1, and we're into the closing laps of segment number 2, and it's a three-way fight for the top spot.
Is CP going to be able to steal it away? He's got the inside line. Now's the time to do it. Peterson down to the inside. He's got 1 corner to try and make it happen, plus whatever's left here before Kyle throws the yellow. Is it going to be enough? No, but he'll stay on him here. Drag race to the line.
The 23 on the bottom. See if Peterson goes down onto the flat. There's the yellow. And who is in front at the time? At the start-finish line, it was Matt Cucker. And it looks like the sim is going to say Matt Cucker is in front of the field. Photo finish to the end of segment number 2. But I think the 69 was able to hang on to it.
He got lucky there, Kelly. And we knew that we were going to have like that beat or so where they're going to come through 1 and 2 before Kyle was going to throw the yellow. So I think Cucker got lucky, because if that caution had come out any later, that might have gone to Christian Peterson.
Yeah, and both those cars threw it into 1 and 2. Both of them slid out, and actually it looks like Cucker's going to stay out as Christian Peterson, the 77 Doucette, Tremblay, and a number of other drivers are coming down pit road to take their tires, and we'll have to see how many tires these guys are all going to take. But Matt Cucker electing to stay at least 1 more segment out on those tires.
We predicted early,
4, right, Evan?
We were thinking early. I was thinking 4 is going to be the call if you pit now, because I just don't see there being enough laps in 30 at the end to come through the field and deal with it all. But left side's up for Peterson, and it is going to be a 2-tire call, it looked like, for the 23 car. He is way out, though, in front of everybody else. Justin Tremblay, it looked like, only went with right side tires. So it's all Peterson out in front. Maybe they're thinking that little bit of an additional penalty for putting the jack up on both sides is not worth the fresh tires.
I'll tell you what, there's plenty of race cars behind him that think it is worth the penalty, because a good half of the field all took 4. And you know what that tells me? If Cucker comes down and takes any sorts of tires, he's going to be stuck behind all those race cars. So I don't know if I like that call, Evan.
You're going to find out. Drivers right now are separating themselves based on the strategy calls that they made. Ryan Doucette, who we've been following through the pack, went with 4 tires. I believe he is the first car, Kelly, out on track with 4. But of course, he's not going to be on track where he was running. He's going to have to let all the drivers who only put the jack up on one side of the car go in front of him. I can't really judge on if it's going to be the right call or not until we find out how deep that does put him.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time to shuffle these cars out. However, these laps will not count. The yellow flag laps that happen during the stages do count towards the total, but the yellow flag laps between the stages, as these laps right now, will not count, and the yellow will be thrown again to extend this caution period if they haven't really sorted the field out in time. So we have as much time as possible as needed to sort this field out. So it is going to be 100% correct by the time we go green once again.
Looks like the 45 of Tremblay is going to get in front of the 77. If everybody is running in the correct order as we would expect them to be per race control, everybody that's up against the outside wall took 4 tires, or only went up twice, or took 2 times on the jack, I should say, which is the technical wording of the rules, Cisco. And everybody down on the inside of the racetrack would be the drivers who are going to get waved by. So it looks like quite a sharp contrast that a majority of the people only went with 2.
Yeah, it's... if I'm Matt Cucker, I'm not feeling too good, because, yeah, you're going to have the lead here, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say some of these 2-tire guys probably not going to come back to pit road, or maybe come down and take 2. If you're Matt Cucker, you only take those 2 tires and that's it? You're only using 2 tires for the race? Because if you take 4, that's a lot of cars that are going to be in front of you.
And the question is then, is those 2 extra tires, because yes, you went with 4, but you're losing significantly more positions because you took 4 instead of 2. So the real difference here is 2 tires. The drivers who are going to get sent to the back, Doucette included, Kelly, is it going to be worth losing nearly 10 positions for a difference of just 2 tires?
So it's possible that it may put them in a bit of trouble. They're now waving a few more drivers up front, like the 61 that did not take any tires, and it doesn't seem like the 23 at the moment is going to be dropping all that far back. So I think it's going to be a good call for him. It looks like everyone's now sorted out, so it looks like the 23 will be lining up in 3rd or in 4th place. Matt Cucker electing to take the outside on this restart as well.
Peterson's in a very good position. He only went with the 2 tires on that one. You can see, though, how far Doucette has dropped down. He is going to be in line behind the 27 car, so he was in a P6 position. Ryan Doucette will restart this race from 13th. That is a lot of spots for left sides.
Yeah, it is, and it might all come back to him once we get to the final break here. We'll just have to find out. The lights are out on the pace car. Evan, they're going to bring them to you.
Are headed down and in, and this may be it to the end of it. It's going to be the 3rd of 4 segments. Shortest one of the night, 25 laps on tap. The 4 tires come through the field. With the drivers on 2 sorted out up front. Green flag in the air, we get back underway. It's a better jump, Cucker top side. Matthew Murphy desperately needs to hang on the bottom. He can't do it. The 69 is clear to turn 2, and he is now completely through.
Yeah, he completely cleared him. And Cucker already out to an easy lead, and it's going to be Matthew Murphy who's going to slide into that 2nd place position. And he was saved earlier on, I think, by a caution. So Murphy up on front all of a sudden, and Peterson down to the inside. The 23 is not going to let him go easily.
And we have seen this coming. Peterson's been getting better, but a yellow flag is out, and it's problems on the back, and Ryan Doucette is involved. The 77 went back there in the pack in the 1st place because he went with the 4 tires. This was not his mess. It started with the 28, but he was involved because he got sent back there.
And it doesn't look like he took all that much damage. I'm looking around his race car at the moment. It looks still pretty clean. So I think it was more Doucette just trying to get around, but we'll try to pop up the replay there and see what exactly happened. But hopefully Ryan Doucette's car will be okay.
I think he got through that without getting any damage, Evan. It was close. We'll hop on board, but it was real close there.
It was tied, and I think he probably did get damage on the front end of that race car. I just don't know how severe that damage would have been for the 77 machine. If he kept it off, it would have been nothing short of a miracle. I think he definitely... I think he got the 28. I think it's showing a little bit of space. I think he definitely got him, but the front end of that race car doesn't look too bad. If there's one spot that I don't want to get torn up, it is the front end of my race car. So I think the fact that we don't see a ton of visual damage is a good thing.
And it was the right front that actually got hit. It wasn't in the initial accident. It was later on when the 28 rolled back down the hill. But on the nose, there's no damage. He actually managed to keep it off the car. Nearly kept the car completely clean. But there is going to be some damage, albeit just slight, on that right front. So it probably won't have too much an effect on Doucette's car, but it's there.
And is it going to hurt him? Obviously, it's not as visual as some of the other cars we've been talking about. The Tenda machine of Stokes, somebody who we've noted has a pretty torn-up race car through all of the circumstances. He's in 9th position. I think the biggest thing that's going to drag him down out of anything here is not only did Doucette get sent back to the pack, but Kelly, I think it was going to be a tough climb in the first place. You add a yellow on top of it, you're basically losing a 5th of this entire segment. The car's going to have a little bit of damage. Those are 2 obviously adverse things that happen to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the damage of his race car at the moment. It doesn't seem like the front end took all that much of a hit. I think he may have just gotten a light tap and gotten through. So Doucette is, of course, still not in a great position, still sitting back in 13th, but he's not really going to have to fall as far back in the field when the front part of this field decides to take tires maybe next time by. So as long as Doucette keeps the car clean for the rest of this run, I think he'll put himself into a good position on the racetrack. So Doucette definitely had a scary moment there with that wreck, but I think his chances to win this race are still alive.
Hey, Evan, if you're Matt Cucker and you just found out the guy who went in the back of the field to take tires just got in a wreck, what does that tell you?
He's feeling pretty confident with his call, and if you're going to go into the final 30 laps of this race, I don't think you have any intentions of coming down and putting yourself in that mess voluntarily either. No surprise here. He's dabbled into both tonight, but as the pace car heads down, Matt Cucker finds himself once again on the outside of the racetrack. Matthew Murphy on the bottom. Cucker got the best of him last time. We'll see what happens as we come to the restart box. Green flag back in the air. A lot smoother for everybody, including Murphy. But I see just how lethal Cucker is, and he slices down. Goes top to bottom on the inside. The 87 still there, though. He's not going to roll over.
No, he isn't. To turn 3 they go, and he's going to try and clear him here. They're going to lap 137. That's the golden lap before the caution comes out, and Murphy will not be denied. Still there on the inside. Now he clears him.
Finally gets on through. It looked like it was a move that was going to happen the first time, but Murphy stuck a nose in there where it may not have belonged to Matt Cucker. Respected that, gave him space. You have to, but there's going to be a lot more take and not a lot of give as we get later on into this race. Christian Peterson solidifies himself in third. And how about the 12 machine, Devin Morgan again, putting himself in a position in this race. He now takes over fourth.
Yeah, just some strong racing is even further back there. The 33 and the 45 of Michael Held and Justin Tremblay, as well as the more drivers behind them. Just a huge pack. Involved in that pack was the 77 of Doucette, as he's trying to work his way on the inside. Those 33, the 33 and the 26 just stuck up there on the top end, and they just cannot find themselves a way to get back down to the bottom side where they've had just so much more speed than on the outside line here, and that's really struggling for them.
Running out to the end of this segment as well. Lap 137 is going to be the end of this 25-lap segment. 13 laps away from that point as of the next time by the start-finish line. This may be our last best opportunity to preview who has the best car, and I still think you could put about 5 or 6 names in a conversation that get a couple of restarts. You get a little bit crazy with 30 to go and anything could happen, but as they sit now, Cucker's got that little bit extra that I still don't see in anybody else as Peterson tries to put a move on Murphy side by side for second.
And there was a huge contact in the back. It was Michael Held got into the wall, but we'll stay with that battle with Peterson. Held's able to hold on to the car. Is Peterson going to try and clear Murphy into turn number 1 this time? And Morgan's there as well to try and freight train him. Uh-oh, train's pulling into the station here, Evan. I believe the 87 of Murphy could be in trouble here.
Yeah, stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. That's not what you want to see, although the 31 and the 45 are fighting for a minute. He might be able to stay in front of Douglas Miller, trying to come down. The 31 very aggressive and adamant that he's not going to get pushed out of the way. And now watch that 87 of Murphy again, looking to get behind the 31, but the 77 is there. And Ryan Doucette on those 4 tires is not giving up, and he is probably fastest car on the racetrack coming through the field.
Yeah, but look at Ryan Doucette. He's worked his way up into the top 5 now, and that car is charging at the moment, and he's going to be able to get even more positions at the end of the stages. We know Matt Cucker will most likely have to come down to take tires unless Matt Cucker thinks that he can maybe stretch this for even longer, and it's possible that Cucker could maybe make an attempt to bring those tires all the way to the end, though I doubt he'll be able to. But we've seen him time before be able to just stretch those tires out. He's very good on the worn tires as well. But I think that 170 laps might just be a little bit too much for those tires to take. But he does have Christian Peterson pretty much running as a blocker for him. And we talked to these guys last week during the media day, and they said that because of these other teams forming up to take them down, they might not race each other as much. They're going to try to help each other out, and that's what Christian appears to be doing, is he's holding up that 12 of Devin Morgan.
This is really helping out Matt Cucker. Obviously, Christian Peterson had the spunk to get up there. He was running in third, put a move on Morgan. The 12 car wants to pay the favor back. He goes to the inside, and we're side by side again, and they're leaning on each other. Devin and Morgan really sideways that time off of the corner. Keeps her reeled in, doesn't slide up into Peterson. That's going to hurt him, though, because Miller to the inside. Where'd the 31 car come from? He's been very aggressive and very fast off of the restart.
I think the 12 just decided to absolutely send it in on Christian Peterson, and it backfired on him because he's stuck in the top side and having to deal with Douglas Miller and time running out before the end of the stage here. You want that position if you're the 31.
And Miller is a driver who took 4 tires at that break just past the halfway point with 2 segments down and 2 to go. So did the 77 Ryan Doucette. They've led that charge of 4 fresh tires up from the low teens into the top 5. And I think they're putting themselves in a position, if Miller can get one more spot, get by Morgan, get that inside line on row 2 for the restart with 30 to go, he could be in a fantastic spot. And a caution flag, though, going to cut it short.
And now calls coming from the tower that this is going to be the end of the segment because of when this caution came out. They are going to call the segment right here. We're not going to get it restarted and just drive one lap. So they are going to decide that this is the time for that break, and now we're going to see who's going to take tires.
Incident was with Lieutenant Brandon Stokes. The 02 mission, Dwight Beverly went on his inside to fight for 11th, and I just think that was the case. So you saw Morgan and Peterson leaning on each other. Same thing. The 10 car goes around, and race leaders are down pit road. Surprising to me. Drivers that took 4 are obviously going to stay out, but we noted that the 69, the 23, the 12, and a lot of our leaders, Cisco, after the first 2 segments only took 2. Well, they're going to come down and get the other 2. Right sides for both Morgan as well Cucker and even Christian Peterson, and the race off for the pit lane. Gonna go to the 12 and the 23. They're still side by side. I think Morgan gets it.
And Cucker taking 4. So this will put what was the fastest car on the racetrack for most of this race all the way in the back, and he's gonna have roughly 31 to 30 laps here to try and get up front here. Doucette was only able to get up to about 3rd or 4th. I don't know, Evan. I really don't know, man.
He does have 5 extra laps. Instead of a 25-lap run to the end, it is going to be 30 laps to the end of this race for the Stafford Motor Speedway. But how about the drivers who stayed out? Douglas Miller, Ryan Doucette. We were following them up through the field. Then the 45 at Trombley, John Ford, Tommy Ryan, Dwight Beverly, Randy Oakham, Derek Paulson, Chad Bass, Reed Rundell, and then Devin Morgan, first on 2, Peterson on 2, as well with Burchett and Held and Murphy, Killo, Powell, and Matt Cucker, who has been the fastest car tonight, even without having to take his fresh tires, is a mile from the race lead.
It is a long way for Cucker to go, and he does not have all that much time. If he's going to get himself back up to the front, he's going to have to start charging his way through the field right off the bat. And there's a number of fast drivers that are going to be up front, like Ryan Doucette, and we even saw Douglas Miller being a quick driver as well. And I don't think those tires are going to be all that worn under their cars, and they may still have something in them to be able to hold off Matt Cucker, even if Matt Cucker gets up the front, because Cucker's going to have to burn off those tires quite a bit just trying to make all those passes.
Lights out on top of the pace car. It might get extended a lap or 2 as we try to get ourselves on the money here. We are working lap 138 of 170. The restart obviously needs to come with 30 laps to go to line it up. You see we're just a little bit over that, so we'll delay it about a lap or 2 so we can get into that distance, get to the end of this race. But, I mean, Matt Cucker, Cisco, is down in 19th position.
He's in 19th position at a track that we've seen tonight, Evan, is very hard to make passes on. We saw the middle line sort of working for that, but Cucker's going to be on the inside line, and he's going to have to get through drivers who, keep in mind, have tires fresher than when Ryan Doucette came through the field. So not a whole lot of things going Matt Cucker's way. I think his best, obviously, he's got 4 Mr. Feelgoods on that car, but apart from that, this is a tall order and what could be the biggest challenge we've seen Matt Cucker have to face here in CEA.
We saw Doucette go 13th to 4th, and even then, I mean, he still had speed, but Matt Cucker's going to need quite the drive. Peterson, Morgan, these drivers who lead the charge on 2 tires are in 9th, but I mean, Douglas Miller and Ryan Doucette might look really smart here if this thing works in their favor. Lights do go out on top of the pace car, and this may be the final restart of the night. The short track racing would tend to disagree, but it is the final segment in tonight's late model stock main event season opener for the 2018 Cars eSport Tour powered by the Championship Esports Association. Miller and Doucette got their tires at the halfway point in this race. They, along with everybody else inside of the top 9, stayed out. Are those tires going to be good enough to lead for 30 more laps as we go back green from Stafford?
Green flag in the air. Did they all make it to turn number 1? One car was slow in the back, but never mind that. It looks like they'll be able to hold on. Everybody going to be safe as they come out on the corner, and the lead going to go for right now to Douglas Miller. Doucette on the outside.
77's going to go the wrong direction as well, up on the outside of the racetrack with Trombley on the inside in P2. We talk about that freight train. Very easy for Ryan Doucette to get pinned up top, and it's happened a couple of times to him on his march to the front, so he knows what he needs to do to play defense up top. But can you execute when it matters the most? It's not even a case of trying to maintain second. I think you should have just dropped in line right here with the 45. There's a big enough gap between Trombley and Ward that could have tucked in.
It's Burkett going around. Caution flag.
And I think that's going to stick Doucette in third, so this may actually somewhat work out for him, because now Trombley is going to be the one that's going to be stuck on the high side, and Trombley is going to be the one that may be in trouble later on. So this will allow Doucette to maybe stop the bleeding for the moment, get himself regrouped, and maybe go after Miller. But I think it's something Miller didn't want to see, because he was watching Trombley and Doucette trying to battle in his mirror, and he was starting to pull away. But we're going to pull up the replay and see what happened on this caution as We'll see what brought the yellow flag out for once more on this race tonight.
Yeah, the 33-26 got together. It looked a lot harder a contact than I think it really was. Just that 33 machine have held a little bit hot into the corner. I think made wheel-to-wheel contact with Burchett. That's why that car kind of jumped, and the 26 machine went around and he hit Matt Cucker, the 69 machine. Same thing happened to Doucette when he went back in the pack, and for Matt Cucker, he does not need yellows, and he cannot be taking damage like that.
Yeah, that is not good. Cucker's only in 14th right now, Evan, and probably we'll get the restart here with 22 or so laps to go, so time running out for the defending champ. This is the more cautions that come out, Evan, that's longer that he's going to have time to set up runs, less time to pass cars, obviously, and less time that the tires are really going to be much of an advantage, because, you know, the longer the restarts that he's getting here, every time you heat up another cycle on those tires, especially with these restarts, the grip starts going away and away and away.
And because we're in the final segment, math is nice and easy for you. The laps to go is exactly what it says up at the top of your screen. Kelly, I agree completely with what you were saying. The fact that this may be a saving grace for Doucette, who gets to go back down to the inside of row number 2 for the restart. Jeff Ward, Tommy Ryan, still there 4-5 with Beverly going to be outside of row 3 and P6. And Morgan is somebody you want to watch in 8th position, first who took his second set of 2 tires this evening. I just don't see, especially on a run like this, if you got me 30 laps and we had yellow flags turned off, I'd still be skeptical. But I don't see this race going a long green flag run to the end. You're inside of 30 laps to go at a half-a-mile racetrack. Do the math. So I think that even under the best circumstances, it would be tough. I think, if anything, it's these groups of 4 to 5 laps we lose under yellow that'll really be what does those cars in.
Yeah, it's just a big struggle as well for Cucker. Is I'm looking at that car, that is some heavy damage to that right front, and depending on how his car is going to react, we aren't going to be able to see until he gets up to full speed on his next restart. But his chance for the lead may be done, as that could slow him down. But looking through at the front of the field over there, everyone else does have a bit of damage, but I'm not seeing as heavy of damage as Cucker. But someone that is going to be sitting pretty well is Ryan Doucette, because that car looks pretty clean.
And another key at a racetrack like this is just making sure that you've got the equipment underneath you that lets you do what you need to do to fight for a race win in the Cars eSport Tour. Pace car down and in, Justin Trombley, control car. He ends up on the outside of Miller, wants the bottom. The 31 is going to bring us to the green flag tonight. The top is not an impossible line to work, though, and it is a dead heat to turn 1. Trombley, in fact, was in front of the line.
Yeah, Trombley was in front of the line, but not anymore. 31 of Douglas Miller down on the insides, making it work. To turn 3 we go, and keeping the nose out in front. The 45 gonna slide backwards, and here comes Doucette looking to stick his nose into this fight.
Now it's a role reversal. Doucette's on the inside of Trombley because they restarted at opposite positions of what we saw last time. And Doucette really using that flat part of the racetrack to help the car turn off of the corner. He needs to get by Trombley, though. If they stay side by side, it's going to be music to the ears of Douglas Miller, who's pulling in front now. Already 2 car lengths, not wasting any time.
And you look at Jeff Ward there. He's trying to find a way through as well, almost looking to the middle of these guys, trying to see maybe if he can go 3 wide. But Jeff Ward, he wants to try to take a shot at the race lead as well. But Douglas Miller, he's running away as there's just a traffic jam behind him.
And there's no way for him to get through. You mentioned trying to look to the inside. He can't just create a 3rd lane, and if he sits back and watches for any longer, that's going to happen. And Peterson to the inside. So side by side for 2nd, side by side for 4th, and Trombley gets used up by Doucette, who pinches him off of the corner to get P2.
And there was just a little bit of contact between those cars going through 1 and 2, and that nearly upset the 77's machine, and he caused a bit of a wiggle. That's what caused him to chop off that the nose of that 45 machine. But now Ryan Doucette has got the clean air, he's got the clear track, and he's got a clear sight to the back bumper of the 31 of Douglas Miller. But Douglas Miller sitting just about half a second ahead of Doucette at the moment.
And a caution flag is going to come out. This race is not done yet. Yellow flag for the 2nd time, and it's Travis Powell's 55 in this one.
Yeah, and that car was turned around facing the wrong way. There are more cars involved in that one as well. Time to find out what happened. I see Yoakum slow. Yeah, no, we'll have to wind back the cameras a little bit more. Yoakum gets hit by the 33 of Held. He's able to hold on to it there. And a little bit of tag there from the 4, and they all just bunch up. Yoakum gets loose. 61, 9, 55, just a giant mass of cars, and Powell goes all the way across the infield, and then bam, right into the number 1 of Chad Bass. And if you're the number 1 car there, Evan, that came almost out of nowhere because you don't expect cars to be coming from the grass.
Yeah, I think for Powell there, you just got to lock that car up. I know it's going to slide on the grass, but I think it was initially in the gas to try to keep it down there, steer it, if you will, off of the inside wall, and it just looked like he didn't lock it up in time, and that car just coasted back up. And tough break for the 1 machine, who I think out of anybody probably gets the worst of that. Chad Bass did nothing wrong, was a lap down in 17th, minding his own business, checking up for the wreck, and boom, loses the entire front end of that car as Jeremy Watkins gets in on it as well. And that'll be what slows us down again. 2nd time it's come from a little bit deeper back in the pack, and this race still far from over because another restart to come.
And I'm sure someone that's loving seeing all these cautions is Douglas Miller. Yes, he has to deal with a car on his outside just for a few laps trying to push on him, but if he gets through that, he gets that clear line of sight for a little bit as the guy they fight behind him for 2nd place, and by the time they get through, they started to regroup, and they're like, we saw Doucette, he was able to get through, he was starting to maybe catch up to Douglas Miller, and then that caution came out once again, and it's gonna have to restart all that. So Miller just chops off a few more laps that he'll have to fight for the lead, and really it's helping him out.
Take a look to the pace car to see what's going to happen. The lights stay on for the time being. So as we work under the yellow, I want to remind you that coverage of the Cars eSport Tour on LSR TV is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the visual timing software of LSR TV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself the basic download today or buy the full pro version online by going to www.joel-real-timing.com for more information. Proud timing partner of LSR TV, and a lot of these Short track races, late race restarts have been known to come down to some photo finishes. Might have to use the JRT intervals to call this one as the pace car prepares to leave us with 11 laps to go. From Stafford Springs, Connecticut, happy that you're with us at LSR TV and iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Cisco Scaramuza, Kelly Dahl with you as we go into the final 11 laps in late model stock season opener. Again, the 31 Miller. Technically the control car. He's got to wait on the green, but he has selected the inside line for the restart. Doucette, Trombley swap once more. The 77's up top in second. The 45's down low in third. Another dead even heat to the line, but it's down here in one on the inside where the 31 has been so good. But look at Doucette, still sticking right there with him. Loses now at a 2.
Yeah, Doucette's going to fall back. He's going to have to jump to the inside, or freight train effect's going to happen again. Trombley trying for the inside, and he's going to have a nose there. Is it enough for Doucette to pull it? Yes, he does. Dives it to the inside and going for the lead.
Oh, and he's in the grass. Going to be contact for the race lead. Miller hangs on. 3 wide for third. That's not going to work. The 45 and Trombley going to get turned, and they are wrecking on the back straight away. So far, though, still green. Doucette in front, and there's the yellow.
And again, just a product of hard racing. We said that the first few stages were going to be pretty clean, but then when the last stage opened, it was all just going to break loose. The dams were going to break and the cautions were going to fly as everyone would go nuts. And we saw a lot of bumping and banging going on that last restart as everyone was just trying to get whatever positions they could in these last 10 laps. And that was just something that was going to happen. There was no way we were going to get through that clean, especially when we saw 3 cars all trying to take up the same real estate there. And unfortunately, that just ended poorly for the 45 of Justin Trombley, who's had a fantastic night, been running up front pretty much all of the night after starting pole, but now his car's got a lot of damage and he's pulling it down pit road.
It was Doucette, Cisco, who made the crossover of the year. I know it's only week 1, but got to the inside. It looked like he was just going to completely junk the 31 Miller. Didn't. Miller was able to hang on. Doucette went to the race lead. The 31 went back at him in 3 and 4. That's when the yellow flag came out, and I think it's fun that Jeff Ward not only has snuck into the number 2 position, which is cool to see, but Douglas Miller's going to be lined up square in line with the back bumper of the 77 and Doucette on a restart with about 5 laps to go. That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting anything, just simply stating the fact that the 77 hit the 31, and the 31 is just going to be conveniently placed right behind him.
If you're Doucette, how far to that yellow line are you going to defend coming out of turn number 4?
I mean, Doucette was down to the grass, so you might have to be in the grass to block Miller.
Should I go ask race control if grass is off limits? Because I think we may need to know this.
I mean, we talked right at the top that white line that you see the drivers going around, Kelly, is technically the bottom of the racetrack. That's where we go from the banking to the flat, but the yellow line is not until the inside of the flat. So that apron that you would assume is out of bounds is very much still part of the track.
And everyone's been running that. You can actually see the rubber that's been laid down on that apron that they've used just that little bit of transition to the banking to help the cars turn and just run down on it when they try to diamond off the corners as well. So it's been open, basically been open field to play on. But apparently the call is you can't go into the grass. But yes, the apron is fair game, and that's where we saw Doucette make that pass for the lead.
You can see a wave around going on through. The 55 of Travis Powell is going to get back to the lead lap, but for the guys up front, lights out on top of the pace car. 166 laps will have been elapsed. We will have a 4-lap to go restart with the possibility of a green white checker like we saw earlier tonight in the limited late models. If it comes down to that, we will have an opportunity to go extra distance and go overtime for the Stafford Motor Speedway. But all things considered, this is it right here and right now. Pace car down and in. 4 laps to go in a late model stock opener for the Cars eSport Tour in 2018. Green flag is out. Watch the 31 Miller already going to go to the inside, and he'll turn him. Ryan Doucette gets dumped into turn 1, and the yellow flag is out.
Well, I mean, you called it right there, Evan. Doucette defending his position, and I'm not saying I'm gonna leave the camera on the 77. No, he is gonna back out of the throttle, but yeah, I can't say I'm terribly surprised by that.
And again, you can go down to the inside, Kelly, and obviously for the 77 machine, the move he made was a wicked one, but at least when he hit him, they hit each other's doors. The 31 had no intentions of letting the 77 see turn 2.
I think he was just he was trying to get that inside line into the corner, and Doucette just he waited up on the high line before trying to cover that down, and I think the 77 should have shaded to the inside as soon as that green flag came out. He should have just started to cover off that inside line, prevented the 31 from diving in. He just waited a little bit too long to defend his position, and that's what really caused that problem. But Douglas Miller is going to be the one that is going to take the EOL penalty for causing the caution, and look at that. Those two drivers are going to be side by side once again.
They'll be in the back, so we'll keep a second angle on them. And I agree and both disagree. You know, when you look at that, Cisco, obviously for the 77 machine, if somebody wants to wreck you, they could wreck you. If somebody wants to hit the left or in, turn you around, they could do that easily enough. But I agree with what Kelly was saying, that even if it's not the preferred line, you have to know that you pissed that guy off behind you. And I would be down on the grass, even if that's not going to be the best lane, even if it might give Jeff Ford a good chance up top. I think he had to have known something was coming. Now, again, at the end of the day, the ball stops with the car who drove into the other guy's left rear. But you had to have known something was coming.
Yep, and we're not done yet, Evan.
Overtime.
We got Greenwood. Yeah, we got overtime, baby.
That if it was necessary, just so how it would be in both of our main events tonight, the limited late models. And in the late model stocks right here and right now, we are going to go to a green-white checker finish as the pace car is going to dive down it in this time. 2 laps to go in this race. If we do not get to the white flag and we see a yellow, this race will end at the moment of the caution flag. So there's a lot that can still happen. But we're going to try it again, and Jeff Ward looking to steal the win from Stafford. Look at the 12 at Evan Morgan, though. He's got 2 fresh tires up on the outside of the racetrack. Green flag, a fantastic jump for Jeff Ward.
Might have been too good of a jump. We'll have to see what the stewards say about that one, but a very good jump for Jeff Ward. They head through turn 2. Nobody near him right now. It's a car link back to Peterson.
Peterson's dealing a lot with the 12 machine, trying to keep Devin Morgan behind him. The 12 gives him a shot for the second to last time at a turn 4.
Oh, look at a 4.
Flag is in the air from Stafford. We made it to the white. If they throw the yellow, it's over. Watch for the race leaders to race to the line if it's still clear. 3 car legs for Jeff Ward. Down the back straightaway, set himself up, takes the benefit of everybody else's misfortune, and he will be too fast at the very end. Jeff Ward, checkered flag, and a late model stock win tonight from Stafford Motor Speedway.
What a restart by the 7. Caught the 23 and the 12 absolutely sleeping. And Jeff Ward steals the cash at the end. And we talked about him a little bit, Evan, but he was just lurking all night. But that's all it took. One good restart, and all of a sudden, Jeff Ward is sitting in the money tonight from Stafford.
And he wasn't like Devin Morgan, Kelly, making the noise as the first car with the 2 fresh tires and a last stop. He wasn't the Matthew Kunker with the 4 at the end. He wasn't the drivers who took 4 at the halfway point. He just kind of blended in. And sometimes in racing like this, in which retribution is something that you expect, in which physicality is on the agenda any single time you hit on the racetrack, maybe that little bit of anonymity by staying out of the spotlight while still being fast and consistently getting a spot here or there. Back to what I talked about earlier, maybe that was the key and the recipe to success for Jeff Ward.
Yeah, he just kind of quietly chugged along, he ran his race, focused on doing his race, and that's really what brought him up to the front. Yes, he had to have a few things fall his way, but that's just how racing is. You need a little bit of strategy, a little bit of skill, and he just needed a little bit of luck to get away with it. And he is the one that will take home the checker flag and take home the cash tonight.
No complaints for the driver of the number 7 machine. Jeff Ward has opened up the late model stock season with a trip to victory lane for the Stafford Motor Speedway. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside when we come back to LSR TV and iRacing Live. We'll be trackside chatting with your race winner and recapping this thrilling opening week of the 2018 Cars eSport Tour. You're watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing, the post-race show from Stafford Motor Speedway when we come back.
was more than impressive, I have to say. I mean, the track is identical to the real track. I was blown away how realistic it is. Every little bump, every little spray paint, everything is exactly like you were there at the track. It was a great experience. This is a warm-up lap now. Tires to get warmed up. The engine. Breathe a little bit here when you go through that little bump there. And then it's flat pretty much all the way through here, just about. Hard braking. This is the slowest part of the track. And then I've done, I did many races in Formula 3, Formula 2. And then I did the very last race they did there in Group C in 1983 in the 956 Porsche. That's when Beloff got the lap record at the 6:11. I think I was second on the grid with the 6:14 or something, which was, I mean, those cars were awesome around there, of course, like any car is, that speed. And this is the corner of all corners here, the Schwerenkreuz. Flat all the way into it. And then trail brake all the way into the apex here. And then hard at it again to get good speed down the hill here. Mega fast down this hill here. Just jump from one apex to the next. Got to be super precise here. I mean, it's almost exactly like the real thing. So, I mean, it is certainly realistic enough to get past the very, a lot of the initial hurdles you have when you try to learn to drive a race car, So, I mean, I think it's an excellent tool to learn how to race for sure, or learn to drive a car on a racetrack.
And welcome back live to the Stafford Motor Speedway for LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2018 Cars eSport Tour powered by the Championship Esports Association. It took overtime, and when it's all said and done, Jeff Ward is your race winner tonight in the season opener for the late model stocks. We saw the LCQ at the start of the night. That one was won by Matt Shadonsky to qualify him into this main event. He ended up 127 laps down or so and was not able to get to the end. Then we saw limited late models halfway home. Paul Henley got his first career Championship Esports Association win. But the big prize of money on the night was obviously the late model stock 170, and your race winner is Jeff Ward. We're trackside with the driver of the number 7 machine. Jeff, congratulations on the win. Talk us through what must have been a wild night. We knew that the segments were obviously going to be the determining factor. Long ones early, short ones at the end, and you find yourself in a position to battle for the race win and battle for the race lead, and then you blink and you're in the race lead. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Evan, that was crazy, man. That was a wild finish for sure. I'm still shaking, man. I've been doing this a long time, and I got pretty worked up on that one. Just the way it unfolded there was wild. I feel bad for Ryan. I'm not sure what happened down there, but I know him and the 31 had kind of got together previously, and then it kind of looked like it led over. But I feel bad for him. He had a good car, but I was going to battle as hard as I could up around the outside and give it all I had. So I just tried to stay out of trouble and just get out there as far as I could away from the accidents and stuff, and keep a clean nose all night. And looks like it paid off, man. This is awesome here.
Obviously, everybody wants to start out the season with a good trip. That's exactly what you guys do tonight. Tell us about how you guys broke down the strategy, though. Obviously, 40 laps and 55 laps made up more than half of the race, but that stage break there kind of felt like halfway. Obviously, a lot of drivers went 2 and 2. Matt Cucker was very good all night, waited until the very last one to go completely 4. Tell us about the call you guys in the 17 made and how that sets you up for those final 55 laps when you combine those last 2 segments.
Yeah, I think the 4-tire strategy, there wasn't too many guys that did that. The majority did the right sides. And that may have even been the way to go. I mean, Christian was fast there at the end, and I thought for sure he was going to get to my bumper and make something happen there. The thing just stuck, man. I drove it in, and it stuck. So, but that was a good strategy call, and it just kind of got us the track position we needed to try to maintain, being up in the front there. And hats off to the team. That I didn't know my mic was actually muted the whole time, so I was talking, not getting any response. And finally, I realized that that was the case. But so I wasn't really able to communicate. But I kind of knew what we was trying to do going into it. They're taking 4 tires at that 103 stage. So yeah, man, that was just a good call there, and it paid off.
Obviously, a good night for you, the entire team as well, with Paul getting the win in the limited late models earlier on this racetrack. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it says it has banking, but I know it can't feel like it has a lot. That apron really came into play late in this one when desperation started to set in. What did it take, though, to be successful at this racetrack?
It's a kind of a mixture of things. You know, if you got down on the apron, this setup to me felt like it wanted to snap loose, and if you drive in too deep, you burn the right front up. So it was kind of a try to balance it out. I ran there in 5th or 6th most of the race, and tried to save those left side tires because I knew we was going to do that 4-tire strategy. So I think that just trying to ride and not get any damage on the car and stay out of trouble was the main thing.
First of 12 weeks in the books. Obviously, you guys hope to compete for a championship here in the late model stocks, and we'll return to a very familiar racetrack as well in 2 weeks' time for the second race of the season, Myrtle Beach Speedway. Sizing up the competition, knowing that you guys are fast, what's the expectation next time out?
Pretty much it's the same thing. We'll go back to the drawing board and keep putting in practice and some of these tracks, I know we got some fast guys that are good at a lot of these tracks, so really got our work cut out. But it's a good start. I mean, we got some momentum. We had several good fast cars up here in the front tonight, so we'll just keep plugging at it.
Good start, and we wish you guys the best of luck for the rest of the year. Jeff, anybody else you want to say hi to? We got you down here in Victory Lane.
Yeah, I gotta say thanks to Scott Eckert Chassis. He's he's good at these setups and working with the team, telling us what we need to do to be fast. And so big thanks to him. Thanks to 09 Motorsports. They brought me on board this year. Really looking forward to it. I'm glad I was able to get them a win there. Hopefully more to come. Thanks to Crooked Toads, Turn 5 Live, and my other team, actually Loud Pedal Motorsports on the Cup side of things, and just friends and family.
Like they made the right call, putting you behind the number 7 machine, race winner tonight in the late model stocks from Stafford. Jeff, we're always appreciative of your time and to stick around and chat with us, so thanks for that. Congratulations on the win. Pass it along to the whole team as well. It was a very good opening week for you guys, and enjoy the week off, at least with this series, and we'll catch you in Myrtle Beach in 2 weeks.
All right, thanks, guys.
Race winner tonight for the Stafford Motor Speedway, Jeff Ward, taking home the checkered flag. Second position on this one, and courtesy of the late race restart, Christian Peterson comes home with a runner-up spot tonight. Trackside with him at Cisco.
Yeah, catching up now with the driver of Christian Peterson, going to finish second in the late model stock division here from Stafford Motor Speedway. And, well, Christian, we were joking a little bit because I was talking to you, I believe it was on Monday, because you and Seth were running the same cars. I was like, guys, you can't do that. Or it was the Sunday night truck race. And so you put red on it, and all of a sudden, I'm seeing this red car up at the front of the field. I'm like, wait a minute, this is CP, and this ain't the SLMs. What are you doing up here, sir? How'd it go?
Yeah, it went pretty good. The strategy worked well. I wanted to do the strategy I picked to do before the start of the race, and but yeah, I decided with what you said the other day to differentiate myself from everybody and maybe stick out and I've never really run a red car, so we decided to do that. So shout out to Austin Designs and Scott Austin for that. He did an awesome job throwing all the paint schemes together for the team pretty much last minute, so shout out to him.
Well, I'll tell you what, we basically spent a good half of this broadcast talking through the strategy for the different stages, what you're going to do with tires. You were on a little bit different one. You kind of split it up. Talk us through kind of all the team communications, who's doing what, how'd that all work out for y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I basically told everybody on my team, Matt, John, Dustin, Michael, and Jeremy. I think I got all of them there. Everybody that was in the race, at least. I think I told them what I was doing beforehand, and I told them the 2 other strategies I thought that were possible and could maybe get the W, but they pretty much, I think Cucker was the only one that was on a different one. I think he did the 4-tire strategy, and he got caught up in a wreck when he did that, so that didn't work out for him. But that was really what I wanted to do, and I planned to do it basically since I heard the segment race deal, and I just kind of wanted to put myself ahead of the guys that were going to be taking 4 tires and try to position myself like ahead of everybody that was taking 2, so I could just push my way through all the guys that didn't have any tires. But it ended up that the guys that didn't take any tires, they ended up not falling off too much. So after about 10-15 laps on the right sides there with 35 to go or whatever, 30 to go, after 10 laps it kind of fell off, and it was a little bit harder to pick them off, but that apron was really digging.
I'll tell you what, it was a great run for you out here in the LMSCs. Sponsors, shout-outs, everybody you got to say hello to out there that makes that team happen.
Just everybody at, first of all, Vincia Racing. We got a bunch of guys running this season in the Cars Tour and the other truck series on Sundays, so we're super excited about that. Got to thank Scott Austin at Austin Designs, all the paint schemes. Like I said before, he actually spotted me tonight again, so that's been cool. We've been going back and forth, spotting each other when we don't both race. So he actually, I think he missed the show, but he should be there next week. And then who else? Everybody, gotta thank you guys on the booth, LSR TV, and everybody at CEA and Championship Esports Association. They do a great job putting this thing together, and just yeah, congratulations to Jeff. He did a hell of a job.
All right, well, that's Christian Peterson, steals second away here at Stafford Motor Speedway. Christian, congratulations. We'll see you here in about 2 weeks or so when we head to Myrtle Beach.
All right, thank you, Cisco.
That's Christian Peterson you heard from. I'm going to pass the mic down to Kelly, who's caught up with the driver who finished third, and that's Devin Morgan.
Yeah, I'm catching up here with the driver of the number 12 machine, Devin Morgan. Devin, you come home third tonight to start off the season, but it was quite the race and quite the finish here. What were you thinking when we went into overtime, the green-white checkered, as we went towards that last restart?
I thought I had a really good chance there with going on green, and then Kyle threw me with the loop, telling us that we kind of had a restart box there, and Jeff got a really good jump on me, and I wasn't able to get up beside him. I think if I could have gone beside him, I would have had a chance there.
Well, tonight's race was a really interesting format, a really unique format, as we had all these different rules regarding the different tire strategies. What was really the strategy that you came up with here for tonight, and was that something that you thought of before, or did you just maybe change your mind judging on how other drivers were reacting?
Well, I planned on going to the last segment and taking 4 tires, but I burnt up my tires that first run there, so I pitted for 2 tires on 103 and then pitted for 2 more tires on 137, and it ended up paying off for us, and I think it worked out better than the first strategy.
All right, well, you get a good third-place finish here to start the season off. In 2 more weeks, we're going to be going to Myrtle Beach Speedway. How do you feel going on towards the rest of the season after this great start of the season?
I feel pretty good. Myrtle Beach is a challenging track for me. Maybe I'll be able to get some tips from Brandon Wilkerson. Learn some stuff from testing for that race, and get better for it.
All right, well, before we let you go, Devin, we're going to give you the floor. And is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out for and just thank for this good finish here tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Scott Eckridge Chassis, Live Turn 5. And I'd like to thank 09 Motorsports for picking me up, kind of the last minute deal there, threw it together, and I can't thank them enough.
All right, well, thank you very much for stopping by with us, Devin, and hopefully we'll hear from you again maybe in a couple weeks when we head out to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right, so that was the driver of the number 12 machine, Devin Morgan, our third-place finisher for the night, and we're going to send it back up to Evan to give our final thoughts here.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, the stat sheet will say it was a 170-lap points race, but we had a lot more than that, Kelly. The LCQ, of course, the limited late models, and a very exciting and a long one with 170 total laps on the board in this late model stock feature. I don't think we're going to see any races as long as that over the course of the season, of course, unless we get some segments and stuff thrown in there. But I think aside from that, 150 laps at Lanier might be the next longest one. So I think it was a fun way to get the season kicked off. The late model stocks, of course, looking forward to seeing both the late model stocks and the super lates though next week.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing both classes out next week, because we're finally going to get to see basically the headline of this series, and that's the super late models. And these guys, in 2 weeks, it's actually also going to be one of the many purse races that are going to be up for grabs in the super late model tour. So the winner of the race in 2 weeks at Myrtle Beach is going to net themselves $200. So I'm sure all it was the hard driving we saw tonight, that's going to be cranked up to 11 in a couple weeks at Myrtle Beach.
Cisco, you were talking with Christian Peterson down there. He's somebody who's very familiar with the Myrtle Beach Speedway. He'll do it in a late model stock, obviously a super late model, the division in which he has won the championship both times this car's eSport Tour has been underway. We will see both of those series in action as the super lates open up their calendar with 100 laps apiece in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that's mirroring when the real life side of the Cars Tour heads over to Myrtle Beach for their race. Doubleheader for them as well, the super late models and the late model stocks. And you can, of course, get tickets at carstour.com.
And we're going to take this opportunity now to step away and close out week number 1 of this Championship Esports Association's Cars eSport Tour. But it doesn't mean that we are quite done yet this week. Still plenty of live sim racing action coming to you here on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Do have a night off tomorrow, but it's Friday. The Sunwest Construction Super Speedway Cup Series is in action at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and our Saturday night doubleheaders continue. It all starts at 9 Eastern with the Outlaw Modifieds and closes at 10 with the United Sim Racing BNC Truck Series. Full broadcast schedule on our website at www.livesimracing.com. You can stay up to date with us, though, by subscribing right here on YouTube, turning on the notification bell so you know every single time we go live. But of course, you can also give us a like at facebook.com/LSRTV official, and on Twitter at LSRTV. Give us a follow to stay up to date so you don't miss a thing. But on behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for Pit Row Media, Tony Stevens with helping us with the graphics, of course, Championship Esports, Kyle Barnes, and everything they do behind the scenes, Chris Regal and the Cars Tour for their support, obviously, of this Cars eSport Tour, and for your team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Cisco Scaramuza and Kelly Dahl, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate our race winners here tonight from the Stafford Motor Speedway. The series steps aside for 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday, March the 28th. For the Myrtle Beach Speedway, that race and every race of the 2018 Cars eSport Tour can be found right here on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Until then, we say goodnight from Stafford Springs, Connecticut.